All systems nominal.
それでは早速全速前進
You wanna know what the weak point of a mech is? The fucking pilot.
Get away from her, you bitch!
His papers say he was a raven.
Protocol 3.
A pattern blue!
Welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants, a giant robot power hour discussing mechs across media, their stories, and why we love them. I'm Brian, and I'm joined supremely by Alice.
The only thing we can believe in with absolute certainty is the podcast, Jack.
And Nico.
See this scar? It's proof. I was a podcaster.
I'm going to cease existing. We are in our third installment of the Metal Gear. We are discussing a period piece about the pitfalls of having the wrong crotch feel. Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. Let's launch into it.
I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme. I give my life, not for honor, but for you.
I'm going to jump way ahead because, okay, obviously this is how we've been doing this. If you haven't listened to Metal Gear Solid's 1 and 2 episodes, I think go back and listen to those because at least in Metal Gear Solid 1, we answer a lot of the forward questions about like ourselves and the franchise. So do that first.
We'll wait. I think it's also worth noting that you're probably going to give the preamble about, or at least the you should play this before we talk about it if you haven't.
No, my preamble is something I actually talked about in a different episode. I don't remember which one it was. It might have been Promare. It was an earlier episode. I talked about how I had an experience playing this game that I've been dying to talk to specifically the two of you about for like way before we started this podcast. I've been dying to talk about the experience I've had playing this game. Okay, I'm going to jump way ahead to the very end of the game.
Okay.
At the very end of the game, you have a climactic boss fight with your mentor in a field of white flowers, and it's like a classically known very difficult boss fight. It's like one of the difficult boss fights in video games, and one of the strategies you can do is like try to hide and snipe her. So that's what I tried to do at 15 years old or whatever. You're in a field of white flowers, and there is a camouflage mask you can get in this game that's geisha paint, and that actually it's the only item in the game that gives you a plus camouflage in that flower field. So I equipped that, did my thing, won, but got no opportunity to unequip the geisha makeup that Snake was wearing. So for the entire 45-minute cutscene at the end of this game, Snake was wearing geisha makeup.
Wait.
And that is how I experienced my first playthrough, my first and only other playthrough of the game. The first thing I had to say was I didn't get that camouflage this time, and I didn't do it that way this time. I did it like a pro gamer, actually. That is my only other experience with the ending of this game, is Snake shirtless at the hotel on the fucking tiger rug with geisha makeup being betrayed with geisha makeup on.
Oh my god, it's smoking and listening to the recording.
In geisha.
In geisha?
So anyway.
Listen, live like a clown, die like a clown.
Yeah, and this game is a circus, as we've discussed.
I'm sorry. How could you take the ending of this seriously then? How at all? That whole sequence?
I was a gay little 15-year-old discovering that the video game character that would become a problem, like, in a way that I'm not ready to talk about publicly. So anyway, that's my thing.
Thank you so much for sharing this with me.
I've been dying to share this.
Thank you so much. This is a safe space.
Thank you.
So, Metal Gear Solid 3. This was produced in 2004 by Kojima et al. At Konami. This was originally going to be a development push for the PS3, actually. This was originally going to be like a much more visually realized project.
That makes sense.
But it was taking for fucking ever to develop it. The PS3 took a classically long time to come out, right?
Yes.
So this actually just ended up coming out at the latter end of the PlayStation 2's lifespan, which is why it looks a little bit better than Metal Gear Solid 2, but like not like that much.
I imagine there were some major performance issues.
I remember playing it on the PlayStation 2, and I don't think I had that hard of a time. I remember the loading times kind of sucked, which was like one of the main complaints about this game classically is that like it's some of the camera angles it forces you to play through. Like you have a little bit of manipulation with the camera, but like sometimes you're walking from like top screen to bottom screen, and it just doesn't give you any depth of field whatsoever. And so you can like walk up on enemies without ever like being able to understand like what the fucking situation is. So it's like really unfortunate that like that ended up happening in a lot of places. But environment was crazy. Like I have to give it that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they did great.
It was exceptionally complicated for its time, I think, just like all the other games, honestly. So yeah, third installment of the Metal Gear franchise, obviously. I'm just gonna ask how we're feeling on air. I asked Nico already just so I could get a vibe check, but like in general with our journey through this very long story that is slowly locking together.
Just to give the context on this for me, I didn't play this one originally. I watched my sibling play Substance on the GameCube. And most of my experience was watching this as a movie, seeing another person play it originally. And I loved it then, and I've played this more than any other Metal Gear game times through. Metal Gear Solid 5 probably has my most play hours.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I will defend this one to death. Like every other one, I have so many, like, oh, that's kind of squibby, oh, that's kind of that. This is such a peak, like, spy thriller to me, and I'm in on every bit of it. So, vibe check, I love this game.
Right, okay.
Vibe check, I love the mechs in this game.
Okay, Nico?
Oh, Brian asked me to give a vibe check out of 10 at the end of this game, and I came in at a warm and hearty -2. I will say this. It harmed me. I was harmed by this game. And what I mean by that is I enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 2 for what they were trying to do, but what this one was trying to do was so fraught and incoherent to me so much of the time that the strongest feeling I had in experiencing this was that I wanted to print out the entire script, and then like I did when I was in like poetry courses at college, get a highlighter and a pencil and just start trying to interpret, and then just spend the rest of my life trying to interpret Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Oh, so you're a Metal Gear Solid fan now.
I guess I am.
You've made it here.
I guess I am.
I guess up front, like I do apologize that this has been a negative experience, but I am still, that still kind of makes me excited to talk about it with you.
Was it negative?
I will say it wasn't like negative, like I'm mad that I experienced this. I'm mad that I experienced Sensuality Noir. No,
hey now.
I just had to go for it. No, I'm not mad I experienced this, but I always like to be hyped for whatever we're covering, and the other ones I had problems with, but I also had a lot of fun with them. And this one, I feel like the fun to problems ratio, Nico's patented fun to problems ratio when it comes to Metal Gear Solid, I had a few more problems. Yeah. So, but I mean, everything was redeemed when I realized that this was just Revolver Ocelot Origins.
That is absolutely what it is. Yeah. I'll never get this out of my head, actually. Alice, I never told you this, but a couple days ago you referred to this game as Ocelot's Special Little Circus, which is just absolutely fucking true, and I haven't stopped thinking about it.
I had an alternate like intro bit, and what I almost did was Revolver Ocelot. Could Clown School have saved him? Because this man just wants to juggle, is what I took away from this.
Oh, okay. I'm going to give a synopsis, and then,
yes,
like I said in Metal Gear Solid 2, we're going to try to do this. Okay.
Now, Brian, I am scrolling here, and this is 16 pages long. Does this get to the core of the story?
Okay. All right.
I'm ready.
Okay. The year is 1964, and the Soviet Union is in its middle age, and the Cold War is like a helpless little baby with the tangible promise of becoming hot at any moment. We join Jack, codenamed Naked Snake, when he is airdropped into the jungles of the Soviet Union in the aptly named Virtuous mission to extricate a rocket scientist named Sokolov. Before the Soviets are able to force him to complete his terrifying new weapon, some type of metallic gear rocket tank called the Shagohod. The Virtuous mission ends in unmitigated disaster. Snake's mom-tor, that's Mommy Mentor, hand delivers Sokolov 2 nuclear devices and her squad of Metal Gear freaks to this game's sexually normal baddie, Colonel Volgin, in a shocking defection that gives Volgin everything he needs to begin a coup against Russian leader Nikita Khrushchev. That was a lot of names. I hope you're still with me.
One of them was real.
Trigger-happy Volgin then detonates one of the nuclear devices for, and I must stress this enough, literally no good reason, in the middle of the jungle.
Spite.
Snake, in a sequence no fan has ever complained about, has survived a 100-foot fall into a freezing river and a gut punch by way of nuclear blast. 2 weeks later, in a desperate regroup arranged by President Johnson and Khrushchev named Operation Snake Eater, Snake is put back on the field. This time the job is to assassinate his former mentor, clear the United States' name, and prevent nuclear annihilation as Volgin ties the final threads on his alloyed cog. Complications, triple agents, piss, and even more psychosexual bullshit than you ever thought could be possible await Snake during his harrowing high-stakes espionage mission. This leads up to the legendary confrontation with his mom tour that will earn him the title of Big Boss and start an unraveling cascade of conflicts that can only be addressed by his bratty children in 30 to 50 years. The end.
Actually, the end is kind of earlier in the game than
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
Good bit.
No, that was a very good summary. That's the only time I'll make of the end joke.
I don't believe you. Anyway, good job, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. The piss was very
There's so much. There's like triple the amount of piss in this game.
Just a lot of piss in this.
There is.
Yeah, we are going to take a break and then we're going to come back and we're going to do something a little bit different with the structure this time just up front, but we'll talk about it.
Hey, Nico here in the break. Just wanted to let you know that while this is a podcast and we'll always do our best to describe visuals we're commenting on, we'll also include links to the mechs and images we discuss in the show notes and post actual photos on our show website. Along with that, make sure to check the show notes for content warnings as appropriate to the episode. That's all for now. Back to the show.
So I just like top down. This is your Metal Gear game. Like this is going to be, I think, probably the last that feels exactly like this in terms of just like we talked about in the other 2 games. Like you are kind of utilizing cover, and this time like more of a camouflage focus, obviously, right? But the core fundamentals are still the same. You are infiltrating a thing. You are trying to get a thing. You're going to have all these long conversations with FMV footage about a thing.
Yeah.
And so it's you know the remaining 2 games like have those things, but the moment to moment is a lot different in those ones. And so like this is kind of the last of, I mean, and that's on purpose. Like Kojima's been outspoken about how these 3 games are supposed to be a trilogy. Like the other 2 games are clearly supposed to be kind of add-ons to like the core story that he wanted to tell with these characters, which is weird because I don't think this game's ending is a satisfying ending to a series, but you know.
I think it's a big ending.
It's a big ending. Some upfront production details. We have to talk about this. We didn't talk about this in the other 2 games. This is like a weird thing that I don't know how true it is, but the thing that is true is Kojima tried to get Kurt Russell to voice Snake for this, and Russell declined, stating that he had like no interest in reprising roles or working with anyone who wasn't John Carpenter, which is a weird thing to say.
Listen, I've seen The Thing. I trust him.
No. This is 2004. The movie he released before this was Ghost of Mars. So bad shit to say that after Ghosts of Mars.
And the ultimate thing about this is that like there's a kind of a thing that people talk about, which is that it seems a lot like Kojima was like trying to get other people to voice Snake very frequently throughout the process of making these video games. And it doesn't seem like he was very kind to him. But I don't know like how much of like an outward, you know, A, print the legend, B, online fucking gossip, but C, like there's a lot of evidence in the way that like every video game has a fact about Kojima tried to get somebody else. And you know, there is the fact that Hader was not informed at all that Metal Gear Solid 5 was even in development, or that he had not been selected for the role of Snake in that game. So
it was so, I am on the David Hader side of this, which his version of events is that he was kind of pushed out of the role. And I think that is kind of cemented by the fact that they got like a very expensive person to play Snake in 5, and Hader was willing to work for rate because he loves the character.
I mean, that had been Kojima's dream the whole time. He wanted a Hollywood actor to play Snake for like the whole time. So then he finally got what he wanted.
Miserable. I'm going to be frank about my feelings on this, which is just that this is generously an opera. Realistically, it's a soap opera with military stuff on it. Like, that's how I feel about these games, and it's totally fine and they're enjoyable, but just like Kojima seems to take them incredibly seriously. Like incredibly dire. And I get it, it's his life's work, but at the same time, that's so frustrating. I'm thinking about Hader as talent. Like he became famous for this role. I don't know him for any other role. Right. Like that is such a miserable position to be in.
The person that voices the Japanese version isn't a big actor. They're just a voice actor too, which is why I think it's very weird. But then also Kojima's
it's performative almost for America.
Yeah.
He's very obsessed with American. And I think, Brian, you brought the quote last time about how, Hideo Kojima is a person of or the quote where he's like, I grew up Japanese. I was born in Japan, but I read and it consumed media of the world. Yeah. So I am only Japanese because I was born there, and it does seem like his obsession with LA and
I think it's really brave of Kojima to be the world's first American weeaboo, a person who's a weeaboo for America. I don't know what that term would be, but
he's a weeaboo for American action movies.
And I could tell, because let me tell you, this whole thing smacks of, James Bond, I guess, is British, but like huge action movie of this period energy, but especially in this one with the whole intro sequence, huge James Bond energy in this.
Oh, yeah. This is a huge James Bond. Snake Eater, the song is 100% adapted from James Bond vibe material.
It feels like the Shirley Bassey James Bond theme in that way of okay, let's belt something,
Diamonds never lie to me, for when love's gone, they last
Yeah, and I'll be upfront about that too. That absolutely worked on me. That song makes me cry. I listened to it on the way home from work.
That song is incredible. And every time it happened in the game, I was more puzzled than the last.
We'll talk about it. So anyway, the core fundamentals are still the same. There are a little bit more things you can do with CQC in this game. A little bit. And they're kind of messy and clumsy, and I don't like them very much, but, they tried. And, other than that, it's obviously you're in the jungle this time, and you've been in urban or industrial environments most of the time in other games. And so, this is kind of just a different overall environment. There are a lot of other mechanics, there's a whole injury addressing mechanic.
Love it.
There's a food and dehydration mechanic. And so, a lot of that stuff is added in. And then of course, you get a whole...
This was really interesting because I'm a crotchety older gamer, which is wild to say, but what I mean by that is I remember when you jumped console generations, there was such a marked change in what you could do and experience in a video game that you felt I spent $250 on a PS2 or whatever. This is totally different from PS1. And now that I'm older, there's a new graphics card or whatever, it's I don't want to see more pores on the faces of people. I don't get that huge jump in potential anymore, right? But this was during the time when you move console generations, which it makes perfect sense. This was supposed to be for PS3. There's so many different areas. There's so many different granular systems. There was such an expansion of what you could do, even from Metal Gear Solid 2, which itself was pushing hardware, as I understand it, and pushing what you could do in games.
100%. Which is why some of the there are some areas that are really small. You'll notice that you go in between rendered maps a lot more often than you would in other games.
Yeah, for being out in nowhere Russia, you keep running into Russian facilities and soldiers really easily. But I will say no game has done survival mechanics as good as this game since then. That's my real and hot take.
That's interesting. I could see that.
These are fun. These are fun, enjoyable. They all make sense, and there's ways to address them.
They're fun, and it's everything Metal Gear is in a little package, right? It's gritty realism. It's kind of brutal because you're eating wild snakes and frogs and mushrooms and shit. But on the other hand, every time you eat something, snake will go harm harm harm, tasty. You know what I mean? It's so much.
Can I tell you something important? Yeah. The person I watched play this clearly had played it a bunch of times before, only engaged with a lot of the mechanics when it was purely necessary to heal from an injury, which they tried very rarely to get, and only changed outfits to what would look cinematically coolest in the scene,
Okay.
which was very funny, but also it means that, like, I was watching, like, the camouflage percentage fluctuate, like, I saw some of the injury mechanic stuff, but, like, they didn't engage with, like, any of the systems that I think are probably what makes this game really fun. So mostly I got the story, which is probably why I came out of it a little more down than someone who actually got to play it and enjoy all the fun stuff.
Alice, how did your VTuber play this game? Like overall, like were they allowed like killer person? Or?
Oh, that's important for our listeners to know. Anytime that there's a video game that Let's Plays are being consumed, Alice's is coming through a VTuber. In that way, much like it's a mech media within a mech media. Because as we established, VTubers are mechs.
That's in the OSG canon.
In perfect timing, a VTuber I like started playing Metal Gear Solid 3 when we started the Metal Year. So by the time we got around to this, I was able to just watch all of the VODs. And I'm gonna say it was a very full river.
Okay.
And wow, I didn't know there were that many Russian soldiers out there.
My general experience was I kind of did the same thing where I was like, I only ever played this game one other time, but it left such an impression on me that I almost like still remembered everything I needed to do at all times. And so like I still played it on very easy, but like I played the whole game shirtless because that's me.
Yeah,
we know.
Why not?
We know what Snake would do out there.
Yeah. And the easy mode does something the other games don't, which is that it gives you this weird little, I almost want to say like bolt action tranquilizer handgun that has infinite ammo and is silent. And
and you don't have to keep up with the silencer degradation.
Nope. And I would just literally traipse the jungle, putting literally 150 Russian soldiers to sleep over the course of 3 days. Just like traipsing
you were handing
around.
out naps.
Yeah. Let's get to the beginning of this because I think there will be a kind of terse moment through the middle where we can just kind of clip along. But like the beginning is the most like what is going on here kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what do we make of, first of all, what do we make of our cast of codec characters? Because those are always, the kind of people you end up spending the most time with as you play one of these games, really.
I got jump scared by Sigint because the person I was watching did not call him until at the end when he kind of like joins a group call.
What?
So I didn't know I did not know anything about that man.
I gotta start vetting some of these Let's Plays you're choosing.
I have to say, maybe you should like look up some clips of Sigint because he's kind of awesome.
He's amazing.
I got some of him at the end, but yeah.
Also, in earlier games, Major Zero, and I'm just going off the Major Zero in this one.
Okay.
Fuck Major Zero.
Yeah.
that little British piece of shit.
See, it's funny because it's like Sigint is supposed to be your tech guy, but Major Zero was giving me major like Q vibes.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say one of the things that we get right away is that Snake is a fucking noob idiot. I love naive child Snake.
He's only been in the Green Berets.
Well, and it's weird, right? Because he's so infantilized, but he's obviously seen combat for at least 10 years because he said that's how long he spent with the boss, and he was a Green Beret.
Yeah.
But he's like so fucking naive and like toddling around the jungle for like the first 3 hours of this fucking game.
That whole family got the dumb himbo gene. Let's be honest. Like that's a dominant gene. My pull for Major Zero is Sean Connery in A Bridge Too Far.
Yeah.
And I just get so much of that actor in it. Everybody else, I love Paramedic. I love what they do with Paramedic.
Paramedic's great.
As like a character. I actually like of all of them, like everybody. First off, they're in a Spectre ship just floating above, which is my favorite version of this because you never really know where the command center is usually, but it's the 1960s, so we don't have satellite communications, so they have to be nearby.
They're just like doing circles in the parking lot, and the parking lot is Russian airspace.
Yeah, but the group that they pulled together, I just really love all those characters, and all of them have a passion for what they're doing for different reasons. Like Paramedic is like, I want to save lives of soldiers in the field. I
think Paramedic is such like she I think is the best one of the save people in the franchise because she's another one at like Mei-Ling, but one, she doesn't have to be like weirdly racist, and two, we only have to endure like literally 3 seconds of unbearable flirting because thankfully there is a character who's going to take all of Snake's attention and it's going to be like one of the worst fucking things you ever see in your life. Anyway.
She's tanking all of the misogyny in this game. Let's give her a hand. Thank you, Eva.
What about you, Brian? How did you feel about our little band of support characters?
I love paramedic, so like the spoilers, our game is going to be about paramedic.
Nice.
I love paramedic a lot. I think like she has some of the best shit that she does.
I engage with her so much because you have to call her for like, hey, I did some stupid shit in the jungle. How do I get this off my dick?
Yeah, and at the end, she walks you through like a couple of really critical like field first aid sequences. And I think she just does such a good job, and it's like really cool.
Those were the only times I saw her.
Aw, sad.
Yeah, you gotta vet my Let's Plays. I always go for the shortest ones.
That hurt me. That line just physically hurt me. I know why, but it hurts me.
I know. I'm sorry.
All right, I have a fact to drop. Let's bring us back on track with a fact.
Yeah.
That's the famous OSG catchphrase. Let's bring us back on track with a fact. Ding.
So the boss's voice actress, her name is Lori Allen. She also voices Pearl in SpongeBob.
No.
Yeah, I looked this up because I was like, I know this voice. I don't think I know her from Pearl. But
I knew her from Pearl. She's Mr. Krabs' whale daughter, teenage whale daughter.
Absolutely why? Wretched.
She is giving cold, old war bitch energy. I'm gonna make my complaint about Boss up front, and then I'm gonna shut up about it.
Okay.
Good.
She should be a MILF. She should be a MILF. She fought in World War II, and it's 1960 something. She should look visibly older. Instead, she isn't quite as pretty as every other female character, and she's a little severe. But she should be a MILF.
You know what? I am completely with you on that. That is, I honestly hadn't thought about that, but you're completely 100% right.
I disagree. I disagree.
Alice loves her smooth, Barbie, plasticky women.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did the woman who was a literal teenager in World War II doing Spec Ops not being old enough in this 1960s game hurt your interpretation of it?
She should be at least 40. Can I get some laugh lines?
Oh, so 40-year-olds can't have nice skin now? Okay.
I do have to say, she has been...
I'm not going to be precious about this.
Wait, okay, hold. We have to talk about that part of the boss later.
It would have been better. You're right.
Anyway, she is here. She is Pearl from SpongeBob. What do we think of her entrance? Because
she's not.
Okay. I won't get too much into the boss because I think we all know my thoughts on it.
Right.
What a banger entrance. Hey, I'm betraying America, and also I'm giving them some nukes, so fuck you, Snake.
She comes in, the first most important role that she plays is Hideo Kojima's theme check. Right at the top. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the themes of this game, FYI. And then you start playing the game. But like, just item 1, here's your themes to digest, and then item 2, I'm about to be the craziest bitch on earth.
What about you, Brian? How do you feel about this virtuous mission of ours?
I just think...
You gotta give it to the boss.
You gotta give it to... I'm a victim of mean women. Everyone knows this.
What? Fuck you.
She walking down the rope bridge, she drops the fucking nuke. It like strains the whole bridge. She drops the other nuke. Yes. It strains the whole bridge again. I don't know. It bangs. I am obsessed with her. Like, I can't hide it. I know that there's shit going on here. I know that I hate the mom thing. I hate a lot of this, but I think that everything she does makes me want to die. She has so many banger moments and banger lines.
Pretty much any movie that Charlize Theron is in, she is playing this character now, and it's a good character type. It's just frosty, hardcore bitch. I love it.
I just love a woman who, after I haven't seen her in how many days?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Snake was counting the days.
Beat my ass and say, if you come at me again, I will kill you. I just want any woman to say that to me, so...
Oh, sorry. We jumped right to the boss, and there's actually someone else that's more important to me, actually.
Oh, yeah?
That we have to hit before the boss.
I'm ready.
Hey, Ocelot moment. That motherfucker meowed on camera, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Why did he do that .jpeg?
He's so...
Ocelot makes this game, right? Right?
He meows and it summons the boys. Like, I just...
And they are those boys. They are dem boys, bro. They're in the fucking... They're his boys.
I know. Revolver Ocelot does make this game. And it's very funny because there are many points throughout this game where I'm like, why is Revolver Ocelot here? And then inevitably by the end of the scene, I'm like, oh, it was to save my life.
Right. So to be clear, like I said in the summary, you're here to get Sokolov. You get Sokolov. He's kind of a cowering little man wimp. And
he's wearing a latex doctor's jacket. It's kind of an insane look.
He's kind of a fashion freak. And he's like, you know, kind of the Otacon of this game, but like way useless and just kind of like trembles like a chihuahua and dumps position on you.
And he looks like the Monopoly man.
He does.
But, you know, you get him halfway across the bridge before the boss just interrupts you. And just first introductions, what do we think of the fucking Cobra unit, Alice?
Banger. I love the
Oh my god.
Fucking god. All of them are so it's great. I love their camouflage. I love their gear. I love how each of them is an emotion, which is just really fucking amazing. I love that they are all vets of World War II who have done some fucking horrific shit for the Allied powers or in some cases the Soviet powers. I mean, we can go one by one.
I want to give my overall impression.
Yeah, overall. Let's go.
Fucking theater majors. That was the energy. That was the energy I got. And I every time they were on screen, the only one I have any respect for is Peepaw.
Peepaw!
Peepaw! Brian, what about you? What are your overall thoughts on the Cobra unit?
Nico said she didn't want to be a bummer, but I'm here to say, like, if we have deep feelings about something, we should say them. I hate these fucks, guys. I do not like the bosses in this game. I think they're so stupid.
What?
Do you at least respect Peepaw?
Okay, here's the, like, bottom level, Peepaw, I'm a little bit higher on, and I do like the Sorrow. I think that's a fucking really interesting thing
The Sorrow
to do.
is actually a pretty cool, yeah.
Sorrow is amazing.
I almost like the Fury. The
problem is, none of them are actually interesting investigations into how that psyche or that emotion interacts with battle. They are just like weird Sentai guys hopping around, saying their own names, just like firing guns in all directions. Like, it's nothing. I did not like them. Like I said, the end fight is an interesting thing to do, and so is the Sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I guess I should say specifically, the pain, the fear, and the fury, I greatly you know what? I guess I shouldn't say that. I don't feel that strongly about it. They're fine. The experience of fighting them was okay, at the very least, I will say. The bosses in the other games have things going on, you know?
Without going into each one individually on why I love them, I just want to say my feeling is that 4 has my favorite bosses for a bad reason. This has my second favorite bosses for a less bad reason.
I'm incomprehensible, thank you. No, what I will say, the reason I called them like theater majors, this is the first group of bosses since, you know, because my experience, as we all know, all I've seen, Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, those groups, you know, Foxhound and then Dead Cell, they felt like they were their own people with their own weird histories and stories, and then they came together in kind of a group, and so their eccentricities were reflections of them being like a whole character who was doing other shit, even if their backstory was being impaled by a crucifix under rubble. Like,
and being bisexual.
To jump on that, I think why they work for me, and it's probably a mill nerd thing, is they are products of an era of war in the world into an era of a Cold War. So their whole unifying factor is they were in wars before, right? They've done some crazy shit for the governments. And so that's their unifying factor, is they've all become bitches of the philosophers throughout the last World War. And I think that is a cool way to start off, because especially the boss's whole narrative about what it means to be a soldier that she's trying to instill into Snake and into Ocelot in her own way is, you know, a soldier just has to follow orders, and all of them are what happens if you just follow the orders given to you, in my opinion.
I get it, but at the same time, I felt like there really wasn't World War II flavor to them. Like,
what do you mean?
Let's talk about the pain in particular, who is Fat Man, but he's made of bees.
That is literally my note. Thank you, Nico. That is literally my note.
God, but the thing is, they all have like a unified background, right? Except for the Sorrow, which I think actually makes him like the standout, right?
Well,
like you find out later that the Sorrow had more of a story with the boss, but everybody else is just like, these are her army buddies.
The Sorrow also like has like another thing that the other characters have in 1 and 2 is that they are doing things around the area of like the theater of operation, and you see them more often. Whereas every time you see these freaks, they are just like kind of lurking around the boss, like literally, like I said, jumping around, saying their own names, running on water. Like it's just like, what are we doing? But one thing I will say is, like as far as at least the pain goes, well, yeah, hey y'all, what was that? What was that?
Which part?
All
Which
of it.
part? Was it the beginning part where you first see him and he kidnaps a guy because he's made of bees? Or was it the second part where Revolver Ocelot was doing revolver stunts and then the bee man showed up? So he did revolver stunts harder to kill bees? Or was it the third part where you fought him in a cave and he was bees? Which part?
I was talking specifically about the part where you fight him in the cave and he's bees, because like he seems to be able to materialize things that have, like, this is what I mean. Like, what does that have to do with like a fun way to interpret the pain of war? That's the famous bees of World War II.
Well, we did see the horror of bees being used in war, because when you have to cross that bridge to get Sokolov, Snake does, I think, at least in my playthrough, sicked bees on somebody. Bees have definitely
bees
been in
on
the
Ocelot too. That's always fun.
Bees.
So to put us like in order, like I said, that all that happens, and like, you know, it's this weird. I don't know why the timeline. I guess I do know why the timeline has to be this way, because we're trying to like say that this is another Cuban Missile Crisis happening in secret. Basically, is what we're trying to like get across here, right? So Snake is fucking grievously injured and in a nuclear blast, and then is just shipped back out to the same area 2 weeks later.
I love Fallout.
Oh yeah? So does Snake. Just ask him about Bikini Atoll.
Yeah.
What the
Oh my God.
we can't even. That's the very end. We can't
go there yet.
But yeah, so yeah, we gotta talk about Eva.
Yeah, let's talk about Eva, don't we?
I mean, here's what I'll say. I can defend a lot of this game. I can defend the actions of honeypot spies in the Cold War. Eva is a character. I'll let the rest of you talk about her, because I don't know. I love her.
But yeah, no, so I mean, the general structure at the beginning, we do the Sokolov mission, Snake is badly injured, then he's dropped back in for the actual mission, which is Operation Snake Eater, and his contact when he's heading out there are supposed to be two defectors from the United States, Adam and Eva.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Snake is supposed to make contact with Adam, and the person who shows up is Eva. And so Eva becomes, as mentioned, our tank for misogyny.
At first, it seems kind of charming and like weird and virgin nerdy way, because his sexuality appears to be guns. Like he basically seizes the little handgun and just like ignores her for 5 minutes.
Until the very end.
Yeah.
Until the very end, every time I referred to Snake, I referred to him as Ace King. So I was very disappointed at the end of this game.
One of my favorite parts is like she gives him multiple guns throughout, and that's just enough to keep him not questioning her allegiances. Just here's another gun.
But yeah, so my overall note on fucking Eva is that Eva makes me long for Meryl, which is a horrible sentence to say, but it's true for me.
That is so much.
Yeah.
We talked in Iron Widow about how like media can play with uncomfortable parts of the human experience, and like the catch is that I think that it needs to do something interesting and like, you know, actually resonate with like the narrative, and like there's a way in which a lot of this stuff does, but she's basically there as like this like wretched, uncomfortable sex doll. There's like really uncomfortable, weird sexual assault humor that's like interjected into shit. It's really, really rancid.
And the camera is definitely one of the biggest offenders.
Yes.
Like the camera repeatedly, and they kind of try to lampshade it. There's a later part where a guy's crotch is centered the way that her breasts are centered, like every time she shows up. But it is really like constant. And then eventually this does extend even to the boss, which was deeply frustrating for me.
Now, I will say, when you're riding a motorcycle, you want to have your coveralls zipped all the way down to your V.
It's important. You want to make sure you get the road rash evenly applied. Okay. Oh, sorry, there's a motorcycle outside. She's here. Oh, fuck.
She's coming for you. Oh, fuck.
My first thought was audio, and then I was like, who are we talking about? No. So I will say the personality trait of hers I love, and that you only really get a note of like closer to the end. She is Eva Knievel. She is always on that motorcycle. She is doing stunts.
Oh my God.
She is doing stupid shit. There is nothing between her legs. There is no sex that happens because every time she hits that motorcycle when she does a 100-foot drop, her pelvis is turned to ash. But you know what? It looks really cool.
Hysterectomy by motorcycle stunt.
So something I want to point out that I think is very funny is Eva is always driving a motorcycle and Boss is always riding a horse.
No!
And then you have Ocelot over here who rides a horse as if it is a motorcycle. That's it. That's my whole thought. Thank you for coming.
He rides every vehicle and he always looks goofy as fuck every time.
There is a scene where he goes to get a motorcycle to chase Eva and Snake, and he rears it up like it's a horse.
Yes.
Turns entirely 180 and puts it down and starts driving. That's it.
I love him so much.
I'm so glad you love him.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get emotional about Ocelot.
I'm so glad you love him because he's my special little guy. He's my favorite character in the franchise. I'm obsessed with him.
He's so good in this game.
But yeah, I mean, I don't want to linger on it too much, but like the way that sex and sexuality in this is handled is both weird, but also like almost weirdly funny because it's handled so ineptly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's going to be my note on it. You know, it's just Eva is dealing with a lot of it and she's in a bikini for most of it, you know, but at least she has coveralls.
One of my notes I have is just out of context. I have no idea what this is about. Ocelot fully compensating for his eyelashes with that sexual harassment. What does that?
What the fuck does that mean?
He's got those fluttery little eyelashes.
Oh, he's got that Nordic blonde white eyelash situation.
He does.
Eva actually has the like L'Oreal London like lash extender. Just ask for her mascara. Don't grab her tit.
And then, I mean, and Ava has like...
But she does a lot in this game.
Does.
She does a ton. She is transportation. She is moving the mission forward. She is for spies. Literally, honestly, woman experience of all time. You are relentlessly sexualized and also you are doing so much of the work.
She is, we were talking about someone else in another episode that was like 4 guys. Who is that? She's 4 guys.
She's 4 guys. Oh, it was Coach in the she's Coach.
She is the coach of this.
She's having to be so many guys. And also a woman.
There's so much of the stuff with her in this game that I like really want to be like, oh, I want to feel the way that it wants me to be felt. Like, and I just know underneath that it's like so nothing, everything else about her, and particularly honestly, just about women in this franchise. Because, I mean, this is the context it's in. It's the 3rd game in a series that is constantly fucking doing this shit. And like, now we're just gonna like, I don't know. This is not how you make a more realized character, is just pile more shit on top of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not...
And it goes past the point of parodying sex pots in spy dramas. Like, this is in 2004 Hideo Kojima, and you are somehow shooting her even more sexualized than some, like, 60s Bonds movies. Like, it is very problematic.
The tit jiggle.
The guy neck bounce.
That's what gets me, because the thing is, in scenes where she's moving around, it's whatever. But because it's programmed into her model, there are scenes that are clearly rendered in engine, and just when you point the camera at her figure like loads in, which means there is a minute tit bounce every time she just appears in a screen, even if she's standing totally still. Yes. I was like, okay, come on, Hideo Kojima.
I absolutely have that note as well.
But I do stand the fact that, like,
no, that was important
is moving
for
the plot.
14-year-old Alice. That was an important thing to add in that game.
I'll give that up. You know, it's important for development. But no, and so, okay, the role of Eva is to do everything that is spy shit in this game. The role of Snake is to blunder through the forest, apparently eating weird shit and falling on his ass and having to call paramedic, and then fighting the weird guys.
Yes.
And that 100%, is this game.
100% that's this game.
You could also say, I'll throw it in there, the boss is also doing spy shit and her own shit.
Everyone else is on a different level than Snake in this whole game, and it's very clear, I think. Like, he's just kind of... I don't know.
It is incredibly funny. But yeah, so like, you know, he literally he gets into the boss fight with the pain by falling down into a cave after being in a fight with Ocelot, which is very funny. And then like he survives that one. And then he goes for a wander. And then we keep forgetting the fear because I think we're trying to erase him from our minds. And then he walks to a different part of the jungle and engages with the fear, who is like, he looks like Vamp's fucked up uncle he wouldn't talk to at the barbecue.
Yeah.
I like when he did the long arm thing.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. He's got like a spider thing going on. Like his whole thing, he does poison, he does arrows. He does
is
weird
cool and a little
net
scary.
web stuff.
I wish the thing that ruins, he is the worst offender. The thing that ruins him for me is the fact that he slithers around going, the fear! Like, stop!
Yeah, I wish you didn't talk like a Pokemon.
If you didn't talk like a fucking Pokemon, you'd be scary. He shouldn't talk at all. You know? Shut up. Shut the fuck up, Friday.
I love it. There, I said it. I love it.
Can I say how the person I was watching handled the fear boss fight?
Please.
Yeah.
I have no idea how this is supposed to play out normally. The moment the boss fight started, he took the fake death pill.
Oh, what?
Yep.
And so he flopped face first on the ground. And the fear comes down and is like, oh, dead already? How boring. And he like turns around and starts like, I don't know, eating leaves off the ground. He's doing some shit. And then he takes the real live pill, turns around, drops a flashbang so the fear is blinded, and then just empties an AK-47 directly into his back until he dies.
That's awesome. Fuck yeah.
So that's all I saw of the fear fight.
Alice, what was your experience of the fear fight?
My experience with the fear fight was, ooh, drugs, man. My first take around on it, like, it's not a crazy or interesting fight. It's weird and it has some weirdness to it. I just eventually shot him enough that he died. Like I didn't use any trick the first time or the second or the third. But yeah, I've heard of the fake your death on him one being the way to do that one.
It's funny because, well, there is a moment later where they use it again, but like there were a couple moments where I'm like, I think that would have been a better use of the fake your death pill. And all I could think is that the fear fight must be so irritating. So I didn't know.
He's just jumping around like Spider-Man, but annoying.
Like Los Arañas.
Like
Los Arañas.
I'm sorry to the listener. We did watch Madam Web as a family before this recording, and it has changed us as people.
Honestly, the fear would have added a lot to that movie.
My experience with the fear fight. This is where my podcast homework had a little bit of a hiccup. I will, before I say this, I will remind everyone I was playing on very easy. But okay, I was trying to do a thing here. I had a vision.
Okay.
The game gives you this infinite trank, and I don't want to talk about this in depth until we get there, but there is a mechanic that relies on how many people you've killed in this game. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go through, I'm just going to trank people. I'm only ever going to use a trank gun, even against bosses. So I non-lethal killed the pain, and then I was going through to the fear, and the fear has this fucking annoying thing he does where he will run away from you and then shoot down like a fruit from a tree and then eat it and then recover stamina, which is the only damage that gun does. I could not do it. I could not do it. And I ended up rage quitting, and I had not saved since before the first Eva scene.
Oh no!
To my credit, I am elite pro gamer, and I literally got all the way back there in like probably 20 minutes. I was just skipping cutscenes and running through the jungle.
I'm sorry. I love the idea that you were the rest of this game, when they allude to the fact that, you know, the fear and the pain have been slaughtered or whatever. I like the idea, like, if you tranked them, does that line change?
No, in fact, they're the only, like, so you get rewards for killing the bosses with the tranquilizer, but that's the only reason to actually do it, because they still actually die canonically. They will still show up in the river, like, no matter what you do.
Presumably, you tranquilized them and you were like, good on me, I didn't kill anybody, and then they choked on their own vomit and died. They all had heart murmurs.
The bosses come, like, really rapidly, right? Like, because you almost right after this, we proceed to the end, which is a really, really interesting fight that I don't think anybody had done before and anybody's done since, and I think it is obvious why nobody's done it since.
It is, well, I will say only one other sniper event in a video game has even gotten close, and it was the Modern Warfare mission. But this is what sniper fights should be. Maybe not with the jumping around, but I loved this fight.
Hey, can I get a vibe check? Brian, do you have any interesting production information? Was Kojima in Hawk to Big Parrot? because there's another.
No, but there is a
parrot.
fan theory that parrot is Emma's parrot's grandfather.
I've heard that.
Parrots live like 30 or 40 years, so it could just be Emma's parrot.
I always thought this was a reference to Jimmy Buffett, if I'm being honest.
Interesting. I don't get that at all, but I mean, I kind of get it.
Oh
but
my god, the Margaritaville theory crafting.
if he, you know what? And we've seen the Fat Man. If he had a margarita, I would be with you.
If he had a margar, oh my god! I need 2 mods. Everyone, listen to me. I need 2 mods. I need you to make the boss a MILF, and I need you to get Jimmy Buffett. The end.
You need to fight him in the tropics so that his camouflage is actually a Hawaiian shirt. Anyway.
You run around and you play hide and seek with Peepaw. I think my specific note on this fight is that the end is a Disney princess of shooting people in the head. His whole thing is like he interacts with the forest and the animals and everything and basically uses them as spotters because he doesn't have a spotter.
Also, he can do a gross thing with his eyeballs.
He can do a really wiggly eyeball, but he's the Disney princess of shooting people in the head.
It's true. That's his special interest, I guess.
And he's also over 100 years old, which means he was born in 1864 or later.
I absolutely love, by the way, that like when you first see him, he's literally just like, hey God, keep me alive long enough to fight this guy.
Yeah, Nico, you asked me about production facts about the parrot, but I will give you a couple of things about the end as a boss that's really interesting. So the first one is you actually don't have to do this fight because at the warehouse scene where the boss actually officially sicks the fear on you, there's like a 30-second interval where the end is still in his wheelchair and a guard is wheeling him off. If you just snipe him in the head right there, you do not have to fight him later.
What?
Yeah, you can just kill him.
It's so game-breaking.
Yeah.
Kojima built in a game-breaking event, and it doesn't break anything.
No. You just kind of walk through that area and nothing happens. The other thing you can do is graciously save your game with the wonderful paramedic. Turn off your console. Load it back to the main menu. This is PS2, just by the way. Load it back to the main menu. And advance your system clocks forward about a week. Then load back into the game. And the old man will have died because it's been a week.
What?
Yep.
It's actually 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks. Sorry,
But
yeah.
He dies. He can die of old age.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, God. Everything that... Ooh, these games make me so insane. They have the most rancid, weirdo shit, and then they have the most hysterically granular shit in the world. Why? Why, Kojima?
Hideo Kojima really... We talk about replayability in games. I want to say that the amount of shit put into these games that people just like had to try out and find is so fucking wild to me.
Oh my god. I'll say some other facts about Peepaw while I process this. At one point, Eva says he might be photosynthetic, or he might have photosynthesis, which is never mentioned or remarked upon ever again, so I'm just accepting that it's true. Also, if he's actually over 100 years old, that means he was born around 1864, but probably no earlier, which means it was just in time for him not to have been a Confederate. So...
I'm dying.
Anyway, everyone please stop praying for Peepaw because he runs so fucking fast when you find him in the brush. He takes off.
I will say I love, just picking him out using the sound detecting equipment is how I play it every single time because it's so fun. But the person I watched play it did the mistake of trying to sneak up on the end, because what happens when you sneak up on the end? He CQCs the shit out of you and jumps into the sky.
He'll also flashbang and then just like run away and despawn.
It's so good.
I also did it. So the first time I did it, I ended up doing the time skip trick because, again, just to really lay it in there, I was not good at these games and I fucking hated this fight. I couldn't do it. I couldn't find him. I had bad eyesight, okay? This time, again, I wasn't very easy, but I had a lot of fun. And to be fair, I actually was able to spot him this time. I was actually able to pay attention to what was going on. I fought him just with sniper rifles, just by the reflection of his scope in the sunlight. It was awesome. It felt great.
Ooh, nice.
And I fucking won, and he died like a old man bitch. Anyway.
That is something I wanted to go back to that we glossed over. Every time one of these motherfuckers dies, they explode.
They explode?
Yeah.
For no reason.
No, it's sorcery. No, so here's the thing. This is the sorcery in the franchise, because everything else can be explained by nanomachines. This is just straight up magic. What's going on?
No. It's explained. They have bombs implanted in them.
Oh, yeah? They have the bomb
What
that makes
the
you a big flaming skull? That's the bomb.
No, that's because he had spaceship grade fuel in his jump pack. That's why he does that, and the rest just pop.
I will say they were disrespectful to Peepaw because as he dies, he's talking about like returning to the forest, becoming one with nature. His dentures pop out and then he explodes.
The dentures is so funny.
It's so fucked. We also passed up my favorite character.
Oh, who is your favorite character? Gronin?
My very favorite character is Gronin, the only true hero of the Soviet Union in this game.
Gronin is one of the old men that pisses themselves. He's great.
Yeah, it's our first instance of piss. Okay, while Snake is doing a whole bunch of shit, he's doing a little bit of spy shit. He does eventually get to the facility where Sokolov used to work. He gets in there by pretending to be a scientist. You know his ass does not have a PhD. Just the way he walks in this white coat. It's just, he puts on glasses and a white coat, and he looks like an idiot.
I didn't do that. I literally just walked. I ran in.
My guy put on glasses and a white coat, which was incredibly funny. Anyway, he stumbles upon the guy whose job Sokolov took as like the head of the Russian ICBM stuff. And it is Comrade Gronin. And he is the most important man on Earth.
He's so interesting. He wants to do Metal Gear, and they're like, no.
Yeah, he wants to make a mech. He has Gunpla behind him.
He has Gunpla of Jehuti from Zone of the Enders, just as a fact.
Yeah, so it's two separate development cycles, and I think it's just very funny that, like, they had the two options, right? They could go with Granin's beautiful, amazing Metal Gear, or they could go with whatever the Shagohod fucking shit is. And this motherfucker chose Shagohod.
They couldn't dream. This man is drinking presumably vodka out of a hip flask. He's getting fucked up. He is wearing his medal from the Order of Lenin, because he has the Order of Lemon.
The Order of Lemon.
He's also, he drinks like more than 3 times the fucking like gallon quantity of that fucking flask throughout this conversation.
Every line in that scene, he's taking another swig.
The strongest Soviet hero, okay? Gronin was like, okay, there's phase 1 of this fucking project to make this crazy tank that is the prelude to Metal Gear. And it's like, you know, project 1, getting the nuke on it, making it, coming up with the idea. And then there are, like Brian said, divergent designs. He wanted to make a mech. He's a mech guy. He has the Zone of the Enders figure. He's a mech guy. He does the origin story on the name Metal Gear, which is the most stupid ass shit I've ever heard in my life.
It's so stupid. I love it.
Stupidly amazing.
He's like, it's, you know, you've heard of the missing link between humans and apes or whatever. This is the missing link between infantry and artillery. And then he just says like a kind of missing link. And then he says Metal Gear, and then Snake goes,
Metal Gear.
Metal. No, he pauses for like a
metal
grip, and then
gear.
he says gear. Anyway, he's conspicuously friends with an American who looks like Otacon, so I'm assuming that's like Otacon's Peepaw. And he gives Snake the information he needs to advance the plot because Snake complimented his shoes. He is the only motherfucker I respect. He is a Soviet hero.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, thank you, Comrade Gronin. Okay, we can proceed.
Thank you, Comrade Gronin. Shoutouts to Comrade Gronin. I love him. I love the shoes compliment thing. I love that comes up later as like a plot critical thing. I love that. The shoes are a mech.
The shoes are a mech. No, he's just like, he is so pissed at being snubbed for this that he's like, I'm about to tell this man who came into my office every Soviet national secret.
They said they thought they were funny. I'm about to be hilarious. And then he gives the CIA the info.
Can we do like a Ouija board for Comrade Gronin and have him on the pod? Comrade Gronin, come on the pod.
We open invitation to Comrade Gronin.
We also missed my favorite character, which is also a mech, which is the hover segways.
No, I forgot about
What the
them.
fuck are those things? They have hover segways here.
Alice, can you tell me anything about these? Because I don't understand.
I love them. They are a prototype Soviet design that the Soviets never ended up using, which I love. There's a lot of that in this, like C3 appears in this in it. But yeah, they have these little floating things. Little mecha shout out. The Xeon forces use a version of this in the 1 Year War.
That's incredibly fucking funny.
Anyway, Hover segues. That's
Can I say there is a specter that is haunting the entire rest of the game after this point?
Yeah, his name is the Sorrow.
His name is the Sorrow. No, because somebody at some point explains that how they solved the issue of getting the nukes in range and getting the nukes where they need to go is that they put fucking rockets on the tank that fires the nuke. It is incomprehensible, but it explains why there's so much rocket tech and why Sokolov was involved. But there is a specter haunting this, and it is the Nadalan tragedy.
That's a pull.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's all I could think of because I listened to the book, or I read the book Ignition, which is about the history of the Cold War race for stable liquid rocket fuel. 4 years before this game allegedly takes place, there was something called the Nadalan tragedy. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The head of the missile development program and over 50 people were incinerated on the launch pad in Kazakhstan in 1960 because the fuel was unstable and there was an accident. And the whole rest of this game, all I could think about was unstable liquid rocket fuels.
That's why we have Sokolov. Don't worry about it.
That is the greatest tech that they have in this game, which is just stable liquid rocket fuel. I'm sorry. I had a breakdown.
I mean, that's like the military science fiction part of it, right? I'm sure they thought about that and like they wanted people who were nerds about that to be like, oh.
They wanted me. Kojima did this to me personally.
If you know anything about Kojima, yes.
Alice, now I need you to say something incredibly nerdy about like Milsim shit. So anyway.
Why me?
Because you're our fucking... Can I tell you how fondly I was thinking about you the whole time that Snake nerded out over the gun he got from Ava? I was like, this feels like an Alice conversation.
I've fully done that with guns before.
Oh, also, hold on, sorry. Grondin says a line at the end of the conversation. He takes another huge swig from his flask, and he cheers a Snake, and he says, "To capitalism!"
Yes, so good.
The closest we get to actual looks at capitalism and communism and ideological conflict in this game. Okay.
Hey, there's one line from the boss that's about that too, and I have it written down. Don't worry.
Okay.
To Groznygrod.
Well, I will say there's a very funny moment where you climb an infinite ladder and they play a quiet version of the Snake Eater.
No, I haven't heard about this.
I want Brian to get his laurels on this one. Brian, tell me about the ladder in Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater.
This sequence is like branded on my soul in a way not a lot of other media have branded things on my soul.
Oh yeah.
This is so Cynthia Harrell is the woman who sings the song Snake Eater. Shout outs to her. She did like a bunch of professional like commercial singing and also did a Castlevania song throughout her career. So shout outs. She's great. The song is absolutely incredible. But yeah, if you climb an extremely long ladder and if you just press like the analog stick forward the whole time, the song is literally perfectly matched for you to come up on the ladder as it ends.
Yeah.
And
which makes it an extremely long
It's an extremely long ladder. And it's not even the full song, it's just the vocals, and it just sounds like she's belting it from the top of the tunnel. It's so it's such a weird
It legitimately kind of whips.
It's one of the coolest things in video games to me, I think.
It's literally one of the greatest things video games have ever done, and I will die on that. It is so good. And when it happens, you're like, what's happening? Oh, it's still happening. Oh my god, this is happening.
We're just gonna do the whole song.
My favorite part is just stopping in the middle of that tunnel, and Snake starts making noises if you do that, because he has to hold on to this ladder. There are no safety points on the ladder. Yeah. And then the camera starts moving, and Then
you get to the top of the mountain overlooking Groznygrad, and Snake and Eva have the worst conversation of all time.
It's pretty fucking bad.
They're at the ruins. Eva is again doing everything that Snake needs and giving him his way into Groznygrad. And they're meeting in these ruins at the top of the mountain, which, by the way, climbing the mountain sequence, pretty good. I don't have it's like a good video game sneaking sequence, in my opinion.
Okay, I want to talk about this I'm gonna try and advocate for Hideo Kojima's direction in this scene.
Okay.
This game is through the eyes of Naked Snake, who is the dumbest himbo alive until his sons are born. I believe that part of why this scene is good is what Eva is doing is she's gib-gabbing Snake. She is saying a lot of things at him while also showing off her body. All the while she's planting things on him and doing a lot of her own subterfuge. That if you just play this scene as, oh, this is a sexy spy thriller where she's patching me up and we're hanging out, it's whatever. But like, if you look at it as, oh, everything she does, and I think you can kind of see it. There's a couple scenes where you see her without Snake around, and she moves much more with a purpose, and she does stuff. And like when she's undercover around Volgan, I hate Volgan. She very much is like playing a character. And so I think if we were to give the most generous interpretation, she is playing a character very well for an audience of one. And that audience of one is a man who is like, ooh, boobies, ooh, guns. Anyway, that's it.
See, this is funny to me. I'm going to present the counterpoint. So basically, this kind of interpretation, this is something called Watsonian, in a dynamic with Watsonian and Doyleist interpretations of media. This refers to Sherlock Holmes. Arthur Conan Doyle was the author of Sherlock Holmes. So the Watsonian interpretation of a scene is looking at the scenes in context, in the fiction, pretending that you're in the fiction and trying to justify things in fiction. So like, okay, the camera is actually Snake's eyes, so if they linger on her tits, that's why. The Doyleist interpretation looks at a work as something that's authored by a person and goes, it lingers on her tits because they wanted to put her tits on screen more, maybe to move copies, maybe just because they like seeing tits, right? I'm going to present a different perspective, which is what I went with through most of this game until the end sequence. This scene is showing us what she's trying to do, including like getting Snake to stare at her tits. And he just like dissociates while looking at her tits. Like, I guess it's supposed to be interest in the limited facial expressions they have at the time. He just seems totally out of it. She literally has to go, Snake, are you okay? Like, are you good, man? It's so funny because so many times during the game, until the very end of the game, she makes sexual advances or romantic advances on him, and he just doesn't seem to know how to handle it. Which just made me, like, I just decided, because I knew that the compet was going to hurt my feelings eventually, I just decided in this moment that he was an ace king, and he didn't know why she was doing this, and he wanted to talk about guns. So that's the Nicoist interpretation.
Oh, I love that. What about you, Brian? How do you feel about the ruins scene with Eva?
I get what it's trying to do, and I get, like, and a lot of the stuff with, the nice thing about this project is that, like, I just listened to the Metal Gear Solid 2 episode today, and so, like, one of the things I said in that game is when we were talking about how, like, fortune dies and how women tend to be, like, something, like, a ladder on the rung of, like, male character ambition.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Whether it's, like, in the text or just because, like, you know, otherwise, why would they have needed to die, right? In the context of all that, I don't like buy a lot of what's going on here in this scene. Mm-hmm. My note at the time, and I've gotten some distance since then. I've cooled a little bit, but this scene really frustrated me. And my note is, Eva's so fucking annoying. The internalized misogyny is radiating, and the weird compet bullshit is everywhere. She absolutely reeks of turf in this scene. The way she keeps bringing up the boss in these oversimplified terms when Snake repeatedly tries to instill boundaries and expresses disinterest in this moment is so uncomfortable. This is not sexy to me at all. This is weird. The vibes are off. Their chemistry is terrible. And in this moment, there are a couple things where I kind of like the cave scene or the waterfall. I almost buy that one. This one's weird, and I hate it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I can totally get that. Yeah,
I did think it was funny. She's trying to advance this idea that like there's only a limited number of ways that men and women can relate to each other.
Yes, exactly.
And so she's trying to understand. It's like, oh, so the boss was like your mother, and he's like, sort of, but she was like half my mother, half of me, my mother and my master, which was funny because I immediately was like, mommy dommy?
Press select to submit.
Mommy dommy?
And then he said, like, half of me belongs to the boss, like, whatever. He's trying to explain this and, like, also extract it from these kind of, like, limited ideas she's trying to push on him, which made me laugh, and then I made the note, we were clear platonic, a harlot like you could never understand. Which, yeah, the Nicoist perspective is mostly just applying very funny micro labels to people who are very clearly straight.
Yeah,
so
I'm with you on that. That's part of what makes these games amazing.
Anyway, immediately after this, the point becomes moot because Eva does immediately annihilate her pussy again by doing like a 5-story drop onto a motorcycle.
I like there, and then see that's it.
This woman does not have a pelvis.
It's like this game makes me feel so dire about gender ideology with Eva, and then she goes and does like full motorcycle bullshit.
Eva Knievel.
She fucking some of the stuff she does whips ass. Like you can't say it doesn't. Like I don't know, it sucks. Anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, there are a couple like interstitial like villain scenes throughout this where
Well, this is when we find out that the true hero of the Soviet Union, Grana, did die and is in a barrel.
And did piss his pants. They find the thing in his shoe. Volgan's being a fucking crazy bitch. Hey, let me drop a name for y'all that's mentioned here first here. Ivan Rydenovich Rykov.
What could it mean?
A character who presents such a complicating sexual presence in this game.
I don't know what to do with this man.
Just hold that in your mind. I have a more important lore question to ask both of you.
Okay, but first we have to talk about how this is also an Ocelot moment. Because they receive the news that the fear has been annihilated, and they like kick the...
No, just real quick, because who did they get that news from? They get it from Boss.
Oh, they get it from Boss, that's right.
Yeah.
Why the fuck does she have a horse?
Oh, because she's the boss.
She always has a horse.
She's a weird horse girl.
Why is she...
Yeah, that's her thing. She's always on a horse.
It's worth saying, too, at this moment, she's wearing a fucking... I think this outfit is so sick. She's wearing, like, a shiny white supervillainous outfit with a black poncho. It fucking whips.
With the white Doc Martens, like, the look is incredible. I must say that.
Of course, she has to, when she unzips it, everything's ruined. But anyway.
Yeah, but no, so we have the Ocelot moment... Where the boss shows up on the horse and is like, the fear is dead. And Ocelot, talking about Snake, says he's good. And Volgan goes, fallen for him? And Ocelot does not answer. Keep this in mind. There will be an important repetition of this moment later.
Yeah. Also, Ocelot does, I think one of the funniest things Ocelot does in, like, there's the meow. There's a couple other things. And then there's this, which is, he, like, does... He picks up the fierce crossbow and then just starts twirling it. And to me, that's just like so funny and disrespectful and weird to do.
Hold on, he has to stem.
We also get our first peek at the Philosopher's Legacy, which is our fucking MacGuffin, right?
Oh, this game gives us so much on the overarching bullshit of Metal Gear that I love deeply.
And then, speaking of overarching bullshit, the Fury.
The Fury.
I love...
Yes, Alice, please.
I love the Fury so fucking much. The Fury is a cosmonaut who got exposed to radiation while in space. He's gone crazy because of it. He has to stay in a spacesuit or he'll fucking die. And he has a jetpack he flies around while shooting a flamethrower.
It's pretty cool. I can't say that it's not cool.
He is also the inspiration for the song Space Odyssey by David Bowie. Let's just be honest. Anyway, his banger line as he's dying is, Mission Command, I'm coming home.
Listen, okay, here's what I want to say about the Fury. Aesthetics, incredible. The layered audio from various astronaut recordings, wild. There are moments here that are genuinely horrific.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's voiced by the same generic pompous white dude as everyone else. There's no effect for the helmet. There's no weird little freak voice like they did for the pain and the fear. This guy just sounds like Ocelot. He just sounds like every other white dude who has a vaguely pompous accent. And that ruined it for me because the visuals happening on screen, I would love to hear other dubs of this scene.
Sure.
Because there is legitimate horror in the idea of a cosmonaut that got fucked up and like thinks about re-entry and his whole aesthetic is flame and like this legitimately had some of the coolest aesthetics. Unfortunately, it's let down by the voice acting and the boss fight music is lame as hell. I have to say it. It's just bossa nova with some more brass.
It's fine. Yeah, aesthetically, I think he's one of the best aesthetic bosses in the whole franchise.
Like, I can see the DNA that leads you from here to Death Stranding in the Fury.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's a great read, actually.
First thing I thought of when I saw Death Stranding trailers.
The Fury is definitely fine to me. Like, I definitely agree the aesthetics are on point. The boss fight is pretty middling. Like, it's nothing special is going on. You're just kind of, like, trying to dodge flamethrower and shooting him. Like, that's, it's fine.
Well, I feel like it's another take on the Vulcan Raven fight because a lot of the issue is like not getting trapped in corridors because he can just blast down the whole corridor, right? Yeah. And then unfortunately, after like some of his cool shit, including like when he's introduced, he does this like rising up animation in the audio plays, and then when he's dying, he has that happen, and then he becomes a flame ghost comet.
Yeah, love that for him.
As everyone does.
Yeah, that's normal, actually.
When they head to heaven. And
then we get our Otacon machine porn moment. Do you guys have thoughts on this? I think this is great. I like the Shagohod. Am I alone in this?
I like that the Shagohog has little steppers. It's got little arms so it can army crawl everywhere.
He looks like a bug. He looks like this is the only cute bug to me.
I do love, so its front mandibles are like two giant corkscrews, which is like an experimental thing they used to do back in that time for like movable weapons, especially in like the Antarctic and stuff. I loved that. I just love like the fact that it uses ICBM engines because that's what they needed to. But then it's earlier, and we kind of skipped over, but we see the Shagohod pretty early doing a test firing before they move it.
Yeah, it climbs up a little hill.
It pokes itself up, and it shoots a little test shot. And I think it looks cool. I love I don't know. It's neat. I love the fight with it at the end.
I wish this is a she to me. I wish she had not been in camo, but otherwise I think she's fun.
1,000% agree with you, because I don't think she ever looks better than at the beginning when she's just black and red. She looks sick.
I want a Shagohod kit that I can do up like Soviet Kish style, like it's kind of worn out and it's got the red stars on it. That's all I want.
That would look really cool.
A true comrade would know that is Soviet era camo, and they would know what pattern that is. So
ugly.
We get our high school thesis statement from Circle Love, which is that the space race and the arms race are one and the same. Thanks, bud.
Wow. So deep.
The most important thing that happens after fighting the Fury is that Kojima is here to bully everyone who got mad about Raiden.
Okay, yeah.
Because you're doing Raiden again.
So you have to infiltrate the hangar where Shagohod is, right? And you have to disguise yourself.
To infiltrate it?
You have to disguise yourself as Colonel Ivan Raidenovich Rykov.
Well, how are you gonna do that? How are you gonna disguise yourself? Do you have something on hand?
Well, guess what? God himself, aka President Lyndon B. Johnson, I guess, gave us a fucking mask that looks exactly like him for some reason.
We are doing white chick shit in this game. There's a perfect rubber mask of Raiden's face. You were issued this.
Powerful enough to override the chin of Snake.
And the beard?
And then, if you call Major Zero for advice at any point during the time you're wearing this mask, he'll say something like, just make sure you don't wear that too long. And Snake says, I thought I'd be more popular with this look. And Major Zero says, no, you'd be surprised. And then hangs up. It's so funny.
I did make a note that misogyny is over. Because when you strip this fellow, the camera lingers on his black thong, which is very funny. Because, okay, let's revisit our interpretations. Interpretation 1, the Watsonian interpretation of Alice. This is where Snake's eyes are.
God damn it.
Interpretation 2, the Doyleist reading. This is because Hideo Kojima didn't know how to appeal to women and was like, well, we held on the boobs, hold on the thong. And then we return to the Nicoist reading, which this confirms that Snake is both ace and bi.
Yep. Yeah.
This is the part where they tell you that they just made the Shagohod go fast.
They made the Shagohod go fast. It goes 300 miles an hour and acts like the first step of a missile launch so that you can launch the missile further, right? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah. I just want to say, Fast and the Furious 7, this is the longest runway in the world, okay?
I love how he says, all you need is a runway about 3 to 5 miles. Oh, that's all you need, dog?
And they're like, this is a multi-terrain vehicle. It's perfect. You could launch from anywhere if you have a runway of 3 to 5 miles. This is, again, I feel a cold shiver down my back is my memory of the Nadellan incident. It's me again. And I'm like, oh, so they put the liquid rocket fuel not in a rocket that is going to at least go up and away from you. They put that in the thing that's going to be terrestrial on the ground and subject to shocks, ignition, contact, all sorts of stuff. That's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I just think it's the funniest thing in the world that you have to, instead of Metal Gear, which like in his little sketches, you could see some of the prototypes of railguns in it. They're like, no, we just gotta go really fast and chuck the nuke in the general direction we want to send it.
Yeah.
This person is the voice of the Metal Gear fans who are like, a railgun's stupid. You'd need like the entire energy output. He's like, why don't we just use rockets?
So I do want to say here, let me outmill nerd you.
Yes.
The guy, so Granin, right?
Yeah, our comrade.
There's a specific Russian scientist who very famous that he is a very obvious allegory for, who is the person who designed the Scud missile platform, the mobile one, which is the most used missile system in the world even to today, to the point that we don't know how many of them there are. And so I find it very funny that they used him as the person to set this up, because they're like, oh, well, we have this intercontinental ballistic missile delivery system that we also developed at this time that just has 8 big tires, and we're going to try and reinvent that in the dumbest way possible.
We're gonna make a rocket tank with arms. And very funny, during all of this tech porn sequence, the thread is laid out. He's talking about, it's like, if we have Volgan as a rogue agent, basically, he can empower military dictatorships, fringe groups, and the third world. Which is just so funny to me, because, I mean, there are politics that are not being interrogated on the table here, communism and capitalism foremost, but colonialism is a big fucking one, and just, like, can't even conceive of it. The scariest thing in the world is that somebody might ally with the third world.
I know. Okay, I think we had different readings of that line.
Yeah.
So my read of it was that, I mean, what do Cold War era dictators do? They seize power in the third world, not to, like, uplift minority voices, but to take advantage of minority voices and start a fucking onslaught, right?
I mean, I guess, but I like I said, I was thinking about colonialism. There's a part later where Boss mentioned she was part of an illegal operation in Cuba. Like,
right.
So much of everything that happened with dictators during the Cold War was puppet stuff.
Wait. By the way, shit, they were talking about the Bay of Pigs. I don't know if you got that.
Yeah.
I know! Yeah. That was so funny! I'm like, oh!
Anyway. So, I hear you. I think my read of it is he is talking more about a Henry Kissinger type than, like, someone who's going to like, quote unquote ally with the third world. Do you know what I mean?
See, but I have difficulty with this because, like, there's a part later where I just try to reckon with the politics of the world as presented by this game. There's such a limited conception of how the world works, and a lot of it seems to turn on the idea that if big powers will just agree, then the world will be at peace. And there's this kind of central idea, and it's hammered in over and over by the idea of the philosophers, that if only the US, the USSR, and China can agree, then the world will be at peace. War will be over. Conflict will be over. Which is such a simplistic look at the world. It doesn't take in any other complicating factors. And I think it's really interesting to have this coming from someone who comes from Japan, because, like, Japan, especially, like, in the 90s and through this era, was kind of aligned more with the great world powers than with marginalized nations very close to it, like a lot of the nations in Southeast Asia. Mm-hmm. And so, like, there's an investment in the idea that we're part of the big powers, and if we can just get all the big powers to calm down, everything will be fine, which is just such a weird worldview.
I'm with you on that.
It just really is.
Yeah.
So that was my thought about this, and I have a little bit more on it later, because the boss gets into a lot of this in kind of the end of the game, but, like, there's a weird politics here that is alienated from some material realities, but it feels very 2004 in that way.
So, okay. I want to talk about the reality of the Metal Gear universe, and I'm just going to get into the philosophers. I'm going to try and only keep this to what we know in the first 3 games. A lot of what this game does is it sets up, and we talked about it in the Metal Gear Solid 2 episode and before that, that these games don't ever rewrite history, they recontextualize it, right? Mm-hmm. So what is the philosophers, right? We learn that in this game. We really get the deep nitty gritty on what the philosophers are. And it was basically a bunch of rich first world Western countries, and I mean, Russia and China all came together after, the big war. And they were like, hey, we can probably control the world with all of the money if we do that. And I think the interpretation here is not that the world can be fixed if those major powers can align, but everyone has their own answer to how you stop the endless cycle of war in the Metal Gear series. Mm-hmm. And Major Zero's interpretation on that is, I'm going to come out and say it, he's a dog of the CIA, which is a dog of the American philosophers. His version is so Volgan is a threat to the philosophers who want to set up the world in the way that they see fit, because Volgan has the philosopher's legacy. What is the philosopher's legacy, Nico?
The philosopher's legacy is a piece of microfilm with some financial transactions on it.
That's right. It is a shitload of money. So much money you could endlessly wage war in any way you saw fit, which is what the philosophers wanted. They wanted to amass so much money that it would make no sense to go against war against them so they could shape the world. Zero wants that. So shit happened to philosophers, and it's established in this game, and they split. The Chinese philosophers, the Russian philosophers, and the American philosophers. What you need to know in this is that the GRU in this game, and in the Spetsnaz in future games, that's the Russian philosophers, right? Mm-hmm. And then the American is the CIA. And so everything you're hearing from Zero is a manipulation in the same way that you are always being manipulated by the philosophers in these games.
And the American philosophers rebrand, don't they?
Yes, they do.
They sure do. They sure do. But that's because, I mean, we can get into it, but I think everyone has a different thing of it. And I think a lot of what Zero's worry is Zero lies to you throughout this. The Colonel in all three games lies to you. Mm-hmm. Your handler is a liar. That is a running theme in this game. I think that I personally love the boss's version of this the most, just to give you my take on it. But yeah, I just think it's so weird that all of them have their concerns and they voice them in these big ways. But at the end of the day, this entire game is about getting the money. It's a heist.
And that's what's so funny to me, because it's like the writing on this game cannot step outside of a capitalist worldview. And it is so entrenched that it cannot even be perceived as an ideology in play. Like, it is just considered a default perspective. The idea that all of the money is the most important thing in the world, that is a fundamental capitalist worldview. And it's so funny to me that it's like that seems to be the default worldview everything is perceived through. Communism isn't even really articulated on its larger principles, such as abolishing the concept of private property. Like, that can't even come into play. The perspective on this game and this writing is so limited. It understands the world and world politics through the idea of rich, shadowy cabal. Which, Alice, you brought up previously, like, that's really convenient to people who want to make sense out of a chaotic world and can't come to terms with the fact that things aren't necessarily deterministic.
It's easier to think that there is somebody controlling things, that life is not intricately chaotic and that people aren't chaotic.
Yeah.
You want to think that things can be explained and that if you just have all of this money, you could make the world in your vision.
I just have like a more generous reading of this, or like I think I might be poisoned by knowledge, just knowing where the future of the series lies. I just have a different interpretation of what Kojima was actually trying to do with the script. Mm-hmm. However, I don't really think I can talk about it until we get to the ending. So I think I'm just going to table that comment.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean to talk about this so much because the most important thing that happens in this game happens immediately after.
Oh, the dong feel? Yeah. Hey, dong feel guy. Hey, the crotch grab. This is the crotch grab I was talking about last to us.
What that dog feel like?
What that dick do? Nothing. Leave me alone. Is the situation. We have another interrogation, or no? We have a confrontation scene where Snake has disguised himself as Raiden and is in there trying to talk to Sokolov, and Vulcan and the boss and Ava burst in, and Vulcan grabs his crotch and then pulls back. And then does it again more assertively. Yep. And then he says a challenging line, which is, "I know the Major better than anyone."
Yep.
And that's how he sees through Snake's disguise.
Yeah.
They're fucking.
Can
we just come out and say it?
Later, he refers to him just as Ivan.
Yep. And he also makes several comments about having been waiting in his room for Ivan.
Yeah. And at one point, when the mask gets peeled off Snake's face, I forget who says it. It might be Boss. I think it's Boss.
It's Boss who says the homophobic comment.
She says, "What is this fairy disguise?"
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Ew.
I don't want to...
There's a lot.
Well, she also catches that it's a disguise immediately. Like, she doesn't have to grab your dick. She's like, "Oh, I know it's a disguise because I'm the greatest spy ever made."
And her hobby is just putting men on the ground, which is immediately what happens.
She puts them in on the ground. So a couple things happen in the scene. Like, Snake is getting the absolute ever-loving shit beat out of him by Vulcan. And also, every few minutes, somebody slaps Ocelot.
Oh, I forgot, because this is the theme of this game. Ocelot is also there.
I want to drop a couple fun facts about the prison sequence.
Yes.
The first one is that this sucks. I hate this. Only in the original PlayStation version of this game, like the PC Steam version doesn't have this. Snake will have a sequence where he falls asleep in prison, and you have this bizarre random dream sequence where you're playing this like character action Devil May Cry RPG game fighting demons for like, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes. And it's a demo for a Konami game that never happened, but they just put it in there. And I'm mad because it's so random and weird and it made no sense and I wanted to have it again. But it's not in this one.
Oh my god.
Anyway, another fact is that this is one of the more important... throughout this game, there are several key moments where you can actually press R1 and actually look through, like, literally Snake's diegetic point of view. And in several of those scenes, you can see the Sorrow doing things in the background.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, and in this sequence, if you look through Snake's eyes during a key moment where Volgan's talking to you, the Sorrow will be behind him holding a chalkboard that has a codec frequency on it.
Yes.
Which you can then call in the prison to just automatically unlock the gate.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
It's so
I wondered how that
good.
happened. I couldn't put it together.
It's so good.
Oh, this is also during the interrogation sequences when Big Boss loses his eyes to the absolutely... Okay, no, because this is... this is the second exchange. Sorry, I'm having to get deep into Ocelot here. I'm sorry, everyone come with me. We are journeying deep into Ocelot.
I'm ready to go. I love him.
Ocelot has been sniffing Ava several times.
Oh, is this my favorite line?
But at one point he does this because he's like, yeah. Volgan goes, taking a fancy to her Ocelot, and Ocelot immediately goes, no, I have no interest in this woman. Remember when Volgan was like, oh, are you in love with Snake now? And Ocelot just did not answer. That silence feels very conspicuous.
I want to revisit something I said in a previous episode, which was when in Metal Gear Solid 2, when Ocelot looked at Solid Snake and lovingly said, "You are the spitting image of Big Boss."
Oh my god.
This is the true. I immediately opened an AO3 tab because that's who I am as a person. Anyway, Ocelot starts juggling guns.
He's done this a couple times. He'll juggle guns and play Russian roulette with all three of them, and if you live...
I think my favorite bit when Ocelot first confronts Snake, he's using a Makarov, right,
Yep,
Alice?
Yep,
I think
that's
it's
a Makarov.
definitely an automatic.
Very good.
Yeah. Thank you.
And what happens?
Yeah, so he's using a... he does really bad with it, and like something about his stance and the way he fires, like he just is not well suited to this gun.
No.
So Snake suggests that he gets a revolver.
Yes.
So the next time Snake runs into him, he has one revolver, and they have a fight.
It's a little bit different than that. Just to be perfectly clear.
Oh.
What actually ends up happening is Ocelot tries a stupid little trick to show off, which is he loads a bullet directly into the chamber, and it jams.
Because
He's a show off, and he said and so it jammed on him, and that's why he couldn't fire.
When he's talking about showing off that trick, Snake also comments on the way he handles recoil or something, and he says that's more of a revolver.
Yes.
So the next time he shows up, he has one revolver, and it is gaudier than anything. It is covered in inscriptions. Snake clowns on him for it, and they get in a fight later, and he only has 6 shots, and it's a problem. So the next time he runs into Snake, he has 2 revolvers, and he still gets owned. So the next time he encounters Snake, he has 3 revolvers.
say what you will, but it is the greatest growth of story arc and character in this entire game.
Such a good bit.
Is Ocelot's growth with guns. And I also I just really do love it because it's so good.
You're pretty good.
Yeah, you're pretty good.
But yeah, at one point, because he has 3 guns, he does Russian roulette, but he's juggling the guns.
I'm going to put a GIF on the web zone of him doing the juggling because what you think this is nowhere near as cool as this is. It is so cool.
It's insane. It's insane.
You can say it's cool.
This is when I wrote the note, Revolver Ocelot, could Clown School have saved him? Anyway, he's firing as he's juggling. Snake has pissed himself already, so he's pre-pissed, I think.
Yes, correct.
Anyway, when he finally fires, it's because the boss grabs the gun and like...
No, so what it is Eva stops the boss from cutting out Snake's eyes, and then Ocelot advances on her to shoot her, and Snake kicks the gun away, but kicks it into his own face.
That's right.
And takes the bullet in the eyeball.
Yeah, and so you call the frequency that the Sorrow gives you, and you get out, and then it's just the end of Fugitive. And I did make a note, because Ocelot was confronting him again. I said, if Ocelot has 4 guns, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Unfortunately, he does not have 4 guns.
No, but they have a great...
I just wanted Ocelot to show up with another gun every time.
They have a great sequence where he plays the Russian roulette, and then it's on the last... The next chamber has the bullet, and then Snake jumps off the waterfall. It's honestly fucking dope. Like, I love it.
Yeah, because, I mean, his hobby, and mine too, is I love to dip my eye that's been shot out in river water that a sewer is draining into, because I love to get meningitis and turbo E. coli. Oh, and there's nuclear fallout,
that's what I was going to say.
don't
It's
forget.
fine because no life can exist inside of his body anymore. He's a nuclear husk.
That's true. That's true.
The sorrow.
I wrote the wet man has appeared.
This is the best part. The sorrow makes this game so much. What was your first experience, Brian? I really want to know how you handled this when you first came across it.
My first experience, I didn't know this was going to happen. And okay, here's how I played these games when I was playing them, like for the first time on my own experience. I was a try not to be seen but kill everybody type of person. Just because in the first game you didn't have a tranquilizer gun, so I was doing that anyway. And then I just kept going in the second game.
Yep.
And I believe it led up to, like, in 4 I finally got it. Also 4 is way easier, but I finally got it and got like a no discoveries at all kills playthrough, which is what I kind of been trying to do the whole time. But this game, again, like I said, I was like, I'm not gonna fuck with all that. So this is a like crazy sequence where you're wading through a river and everyone you've killed who's in the game is going to try to charge you, and you have to dodge them, otherwise you'll lose HP, right? I accidentally slit one guy's throat at the beginning. So there was one guy just wandering around in the river for like 5 to 10 minutes.
So if you kill animals, they'll show up too.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I was fighting the pain, I did throw a couple grenades in the water, and I did hear a bunch of like noises from fish dying.
Oh my god, that must be what it is.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I was like, what is up with all these dead fish?
So all of the other bosses are also here. They do creepy shit too. It's a dope, scary sequence.
There is a ghostly voice of the parrot.
Yes. Grandpa!
Yeah, he says grandpa! And I laughed because I had just been referring to the end as Peepaw the whole time, and I'm like, confirmed!
Confirmed Peepaw. Alice, what's your deal here?
My sibling run and gun through this, and so when we got there, first off, it's fucking wild because the sorrow just floats there and tells you you're such a terrible person. And he gives it's kind of like Psycho Mantis. He gives you context about your playthrough as you're going through, depending on what you've done.
Yeah.
But so before you get to this point, it's a little over 280 NPCs you can kill. And you can get that many, but it was so packed. And you can die during that boss. You can lose getting killed by the people in the River of Sorrow.
Yeah.
That is wild.
We died a few times.
Anyway, great sequence.
Great sequence. Oh, also, can we just say the Sorrow's dead. The Sorrow's a ghost this whole time, guys.
Yeah.
That's it.
The Sorrow's fully dead. There's a very cool effect when you first see him where he wears glasses. His glasses break and blood drips out of one eye, which is a very cool echo because you've just had the sequence where you've been shot in the eye and all that.
I think it also implies like the grisly detail that's where the boss shot him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You realize that later, but like that is where the boss shot him. Like it's so wild.
It's good.
I really actually like the Sorrow's backstory more than anybody's. I actually really found him more compelling.
He's really interesting.
Him and the Fury. If the Fury had different voice actor stuff going on, I think he and the Fury would have been like standouts for me. But as it is, it's just the Sorrow.
Since we're talking about the Sorrow, I just want to talk about the Sorrow's relationship with the boss. They were lovers.
Well,
he was the father of her child.
I mean, we can just say it. That's Ocelot's daddy boy.
Well, yeah, that's Ocelot's daddy boy.
What?
Oh, by the way, Nico, the boss is Ocelot's mom.
What? Oh my god.
If you didn't pick that up.
Told to you in this game?
Yes. You have to extrapolate it.
Oh my god.
But the Sorrow and the boss are his parents.
Okay, well that explains why he looks so fucking ghostly pale, because one of his parents is a ghost and the other one is Nordic blonde.
There are some I think they put $1 billion into the boss's facial expressions. They exchange a couple of looks throughout this game that are really, really subtle. They're really subtle.
Wild.
Very.
Oh my god. At some point in here, I forget who says it, but someone says the spirit of the warrior will always be with you. And it really made me think, I do think that the conceptualization of Hideo Kojima or the writer's room or whatever is that the idea of soldiers in warfare is way more related to like samurai and knights than like a job that you do. Like there's definitely the feeling in this and other games that soldier is a high calling, that you become a soldier because you have a calling to combat in the field of battle, and it like takes its toll on you, but it's a vocation. And I was just thinking about how many people I know or like have heard of that are just, you become a soldier because you want to get out of poverty or you need a college degree or whatever. Sure. Like, it's really weird to me. I had a real disconnect between this idea of a warrior.
That's one of the things that the genre space that it's interacting with does. So I mean, it's a little bit of a given, but I do think you're correct on that. So anyway, we get a cave sequence where Ava is finally shocked into silence by the idea of men and women not fucking all the time or something. I don't know what her fucking deal is.
After she drives into a waterfall on her motorcycle, please.
Thank you.
Oh my god. And then there's the whole sequence. A boxing bell rings out. She is trying to remove a transmitter from Snake, and the shadows on the wall make it look like they are fucking in several different positions.
Yeah.
This is extremely weird, and I did not enjoy it.
I didn't enjoy it either. I mean, I didn't enjoy that part. I kind of enjoyed their conversation by the fire. And like, this is a little bit more of a successful attempt at showing you what they're trying to do with her here.
Yeah.
But I also agree, like, it has to be wrapped up in a bunch of bullshit. It just has to be, and it's so annoying. And then we get, we immediately return to Grozny Grad, plant the C4, and then we get our showdown with the Shagohod, which was always fated to be. In this part, we get like one of the character notes for Eva that I actually really liked, which is when she talks about riding her motorcycle. Oh, yes.
Because he's like, why the fuck are you always riding your motorcycle? And she says, like, I love it when the wind hits me. It is a pain that's more satisfying than the pain of pretending to be other people.
It's a little bit, it's giving Wu Zetian, honestly, a little bit.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I love that physical connection.
She says a pretty good line, I only get off my bike when I fall in love or fall dead. Remember that.
Yeah, I really liked her whole relationship with her motorcycle and riding. As corny as it is, I like that she got to have like a wild fucking thing that was going on that wasn't directly related to her being a woman. Like, I really like that.
Agreed. Anyway, we get our fight with Volgin, who's in like this cool, I think Volgin's character design rips.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
I guess.
It's not for me, but I love him as a character and a villain. And when he's in that suit, I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm fucking in.
He has like an orange chipboard looking power suit thing that he like,
And Ocelot is there.
and Ocelot is there throwing objects at you.
Anyway, Volgin is there. He is fighting in the hangar with the volatile liquid rocket fuel in the C3, and he does electricity shit.
Electrically punching bullet. He
fires those fucking, are they like 55 caliber rounds or whatever?
50 caliber rounds, yeah.
By just charging them up.
Holds them in his fingers.
It's good. I really like it. It's such a cool idea to me.
But also, he just has electric powers.
Yep.
What is this series?
Yeah.
This is where we get our first couple clues. I mean, it's Ocelot, and we've played other games. We know what's going on here, but we get our first clue that he's up to a little something here, huh?
Ocelot? Working for somebody else?
Being fucked up about Snake. Your big boss,
but
as
to
it
be
were.
perfectly clear, it is so also that.
It's very that. But shut the fuck up. It's Shagohod time.
It's Shagohod time. This sequence rules.
It's so good.
Ava fucking rips. She's just doing motorcycle stunts, and you're just firing every gun.
God.
All of your weapons have infinite ammo because that's the power of the motorcycle.
This whole sequence is so fucking fun.
It's so cool. And another thing that's happening is Ocelot's chasing them, and he actually does do a really fucking cool thing with motorcycle, which is he uses his fucking spur as like a drift compensator.
It's so funny because the drift compensator for Eva is Snake. Snake is like using his body to like help her make hairpin turns.
Good.
It's crazy cool.
And so you have to fire a bunch of rockets at Shagohod and like kill a bunch of people, and the fucking hover segways are back.
Yes, they are.
The most important thing in the world is care and feeding of your mech. So we got the Shagohog here. It's been doing a lot. It's been stomping around. It's been crushing things. It has to destroy a pedestrian bridge because it's a little too tall to go under. It's tired and hungry. And so the most important thing
hungry boy.
is you need to feed it a little aerial vehicle snack.
It acts like a rampaging monster. It is a mech.
Alice, you might actually be familiar with this. I wouldn't be surprised if you were. There's a genre of TikTok video that I'm really into right now, which is that somebody just like puts a physics simulator together, drops a bunch of like random sports cars in it, and then just like fires them top speed over like obstacle courses and smashes them and explodes them.
Yes, it's very satisfying.
This literally feels like a video where someone put the fucking Shagohod into one of those and just launched it at different Russian aerial vehicles, because there's like 3 helicopters it rolls over.
And it knocks over a really big tactical plane.
Throwback, the Hind D does show up in this.
The Hind D gets crushed, yeah.
I was wondering. and then I'm haunted again, because in all this I'm like, well, it's probably not loaded, right? It's not loaded. So like there would be no reason, because the nuke's probably not on it. So like there would be no reason for those fuel tanks to be full. So obviously it's not going to charge.
Yep.
It charges, which means the fuel tanks were full the whole time you were firing RPGs at it.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm having a breakdown.
How else are you gonna blow up the base?
This is one of the best like mech fights in the series to me because it goes through so many stages.
Oh, yeah.
Like you have to time shooting some C4 while it crosses a bridge so it loses like the lower segment of its body, and then you have to fight it in like an arena. Like
it enters stage 2 of its form, which we did not know it could do before.
I was really hoping that it would do, because stage 2, it basically detaches the big tank part, and it's just the front part, which can move on its own because it like you said, it moves like the drill pieces. I was really hoping that sometimes it would do like a little hop or a little stand up. No, it just kind of spins.
it's fun. It sucks because I like remembered it doing that, and I was disappointed that it never did.
Yeah, but then it got kind of cool again because you think you've killed Volgan, and then he fucking punches into Shagohod's brain and like pulls nerves out, which are wires, to force it to move again with his electrical powers.
Normal things.
It's so sick. This is like the best shit ever. I love it. It's
Okay, and I have to ask a question here.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know about the R1 thing, and the person I was watching did not do it. When Volgan dies here, he's struck by lightning in the rain. Did the sorrow kill him?
No. Well, I mean, maybe, because if he did, it's not confirmed by an R1 mechanic, I'll say.
Okay.
Because the thing about the Sorrow is he's following the boss around because the rain follows her around.
Yeah.
If you notice that.
It started raining, and then the lightning happened, and that's what killed him, and all his bullets explode like fireworks.
At the beginning, the rain is literally shows up when she shows up and like gives him a bunch of shit. She actually has a cold line I didn't talk about earlier, which is you don't have to forgive me, but you can't defeat me. And then she rides off, and the rain literally follows her and stops. And then when she shows up to the warehouse, it starts to rain again. And so like every time it rains, it's been him. So like that's a great theory, I think.
I would believe that the Sorrow is like, I hate this guy.
I agree with you, because also one other thing we find out later is that if he hadn't launched that nuke, the Snake Eater mission would have been very different.
Yeah, he fucked up her whole shit, so I could see the Sorrow being like, fuck this guy in particular. He's already mostly dead. Nobody will question it. I just do this.
I get it. I also think that like being struck by lightning is also just really thematically appropriate for him. One of his stupid little catchphrases is Kuwabara, Kuwabara, which is a Japanese saying that's like warding off lightning.
Well, I have heard the interpretation that is the Sorrow's like one last like fuck you thing, because you earned it. So the bosses that you fight going through it, the entire game, the boss is sending her comrades after you to prepare you for what's about to come. And I do think each of them is, in a way, Snake's family. And I think, that is Sorrow being like,
fuck this dude in particular.
You fought this guy like 4 times. I'm gonna finish this.
You're also my son in a way, so fuck that guy.
But yeah, you're getting chased by, because you can't just hang out. The Soviets are back, and they've got the jet hover vehicles, and they're chasing you to the end of the game.
Yep.
Which, yeah.
Base level, we get, we're escaping to a lake where, by the way, Eva's hidden a fucking wig in a lake. What the fuck, dog?
By the way, a wig is a rocket-powered Soviet airplane that takes off from the water.
It's not just a wig, which is what I immediately thought, because I think the first time she mentions the wig is also the sequence which she tells him to impersonate Raiden.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you hid a Raiden wig in a lake? Why'd you do that?
No, so they make it to the wig. There's a field of white, I think lilies or something.
Yes.
That the boss is waiting in. Look, the speech here we have to talk about. I get it. I just want to say up top.
Okay, first things first. I think the boss gently and casually fires the remaining nuke.
Yes, she fires it at Grozny Grad. I believe we're made to understand that it's just been like annihilated.
Correct.
Anyway.
The visual aesthetic and vibe of this fight is utterly immaculate. I have to say it out loud into the world. But she has to deliver this speech.
Why are you doing this?
Why? To make the world one again. The world used to be whole. But with the end of the Second World War, the philosophers began to fight amongst themselves, and the world was torn apart. The Cobras, my comrades who trained and fought alongside me, were torn apart as well. The foibles of politics and the march of time can turn friends into enemies just as easily as the wind changes. Ridiculous, isn't it? Yesterday's ally becomes today's opposition, and this Cold War. Think back, when I was leading the Cobras, America and Russia were fighting together. Now, consider whether America and Russia will still be enemies in the 21st century. Somehow I doubt it. Enemies change along with the times, the flow of the ages, and we soldiers are forced to play along.
Which, like, I have a reading of. I'm going to save it for last, but, like, what's the vibe on this speech,
Okay.
Alice?
I just want to say that every time I see this scene, I cry. I think this entire speech and everything about this is so much the thesis of Metal Gear to me. And let me explain what I mean by that. A lot of what Metal Gear does, especially now that it's all encompassing and coming up to this point, is it is a story about soldiers, specifically male soldiers and their sons. It's a lot about parents and their kids and what you do with your kids. And when we meet Boss, like, she is very obviously supposed to be, and I know she's not a MILF, okay, Nico, but...
I'm waiting on the mod.
But she is Snake's mother, Ocelot's actual mother, and she is the mother of Special Operations. They call her that a couple of times. And her talking about this, and, like, we meet her at the end of her story. She has gone through so much and gotten to this point, and we learned all of this history through her speeches to us. To have her be like, okay, I want to read the quote because I think this is where I loved the Boss as a character, and, like, I cry every time, which is something from the beginning of this game until now. She has told you the next time we meet each other, one of us is going to be dead. A little Easter egg is when she tells you that on her horse and goes a different way, you can, like, pull up your sound and hear her horse. She's waiting for you to follow her so she can kill you. And if you go that way, she'll kill you.
Huh.
But the quote that she says as you're fighting is, I raised you. I loved you. I've given you weapons, taught you techniques, endowed you with knowledge. There's nothing more for me to give you. All that's left for you is to take my life by your own hand. One must die and one must live. No victory, no defeat. Their survival will carry on the fight. It is our destiny. The one who survives will inherit the title of boss, and the one who inherits the title of boss will face an existence of endless battle. Banger. She says bangers.
Yeah.
This fight is so good. This fight is so hard. This fight is so pretty. And I'll let Brian say where it goes, but, like, she gives you all of this and tells you basically that she is tired of fighting and she can't keep this battle going, but one of us has to. And it's whichever one of us lives. And either I have raised you to be strong enough to kill me and take on that title, or I have failed and I have to do something else. But she knows, because she's your mom, that you are going to beat her. And she's just saying that because she wants you to have, I want to go all the way back to a quote from the beginning of the game. In the end, you have to choose whether you're going to live as a soldier or just another man with a gun. Her whole character arc is that she has been a soldier her whole life in the hopes that after all of these wars, the world would be a better place for her children and that people would come together. And now she's in the Cold War and she just sees the continuing saga of violence and war that is just going to keep happening because of the powers that be or because of human nature. But she realizes that she is a soldier. She is the soldier's soldier because when she was told to pull the trigger and kill the Sorrow, the love of her life, the father of her child, because she is a soldier and that was an order, she did it. That was her mission. And all we have is the mission, Jack. And so she is telling her son, who has hesitated at everything, and it echoes MGS1 and MGS2, both protagonists, all three protagonists of these games, hesitate when it comes down to what it means to execute the mission completely. And the boss has done that and lost herself. This is where she is. And she is seeing if you will just be another man with a gun or if you will be a person with a mission. This whole fight is up to that, and I think it says a lot about the future of this series. That's my thought. I cry. I'm choking up thinking about it.
I'm really glad, like, that was really well articulated. I'm really glad you brought that perspective because, like, my first reaction after watching this entire scene play out was, this is what y'all cry at. And, like, you telling me that helps me understand that perspective so much more than, like, my impression of it, right? I was kind of struggling so much with the thinking here, right? Because this game is kind of an ideological mess. Boss is bookending this game, right? You meet her on the plane, and you read a quote from both of her big moments, the beginning and the end. She lays out the themes, and at the end, she elaborates on the themes and brings in, like, her experiences, and you learn more about her. So she bookends it, but this is so incoherent in a lot of ways, right? So I was trying to figure out if I could distill what the worldview was as based on the events she outlined and the ideas she articulated about why war happens. There are no real divisions in the world, because she has the experience where she's like sent up into space, which I'll talk about that in a second. There are no real divisions in the world. War is always contrived. There is a shadowy cabal of secret government leaders creating endless conflicts. And this is the reason we have conflict, and it will never end. And if you are going to be a soldier, you are consigned, as long as these powers are in charge, to never-ending conflict. Like, that is the best I could distill the message and the thinking of this game. Like, the concept of how the world works, the ideology that I could distill from this game, right? But it is told through Boss having to, much like Eva, be 5 fucking guys. During World War II, she became pregnant and delivered a child on the battlefield, the child of the sorrow. This child was cut out of her and taken away by the philosophers. She can no longer bear children, either because of that or because of the radiation, because...
To be clear, she is the first person to have done anything ever. She was at the Bay of Pigs. She was at Normandy. She was in the space flight. Like, that's just top level. This is part of the speech. It's so wild.
But the point is, she is 5 fucking guys, and... Can I be a script doctor here for a second?
Yeah, please.
This game would be so much better if her 5-guy trauma was actually distributed through the team. I was specifically thinking about the Fury. Like, if these were guys that she had lived through World War II with, and then when they came back together, they brought all these experiences. The Fury talks about having the thought, like, they sent me into space and I came back fucked up, but I saw a vision of the world where there were no divisions. And maybe she talks to the end and he talks about, like, you know, I was at the testing site or whatever because I was a weapons expert or whatever. Like, if all of her different weird guys had brought these experiences in, and this had been what marked them and made them weird instead of them just being weird, that would have been really cool, because then what the boss would be telling you at this point is the weight of being a commander who has to issue these orders as well.
That's a really good call.
Right?
I really like that idea.
The idea, like, if they had brought that all in, and then she tells Snake, basically, I have to shoulder everything that they carry, and also having to be the person that I am, having to be a mother, because, I mean, and this is what gets me too. Not only is she 5 guys, she's 3 women. She is a teacher, she is a mother, she is a widow who was a wife, right? Like, I'm so frustrated by how much they've put on her, because, like, Brian, I think you said earlier that Eva, in trying to make a strong female character, all they could figure out was to put more on her. And I feel like the boss in this case is a victim of the same. There's so much that's going on with her, and she does say some banger lines. There's a really interesting one that didn't make sense to me till later. She says of Snake, when she talks about the fact that she was at Los Alamos and he was at Bikini Atoll, we're both being slowly eaten away at by the karma of others. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And then I realized she's talking about, like, the radiation from these tests that would destroy so many people are killing them.
One thing that's not as explicitly made clear here, but just kind of gets dropped throughout the lore later on, is that all of this stuff has made Big Boss infertile.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the same frustration I had. I mean, I think people who lived through the discourse will remember when it was revealed in Avengers Age of Ultron that Black Widow was infertile and her story was made about her being infertile.
Yeah.
There was such a furor from feminists, and there's a reason for that, because so much about women is distilled to fertility, distilled to motherhood. And so this is where I had so much frustration. So this is my situation. I go into this big speech, which is a really compelling speech if you are buying into the world as constructed, if you are sympathizing with the boss as a character living in this world, right? I was torn up with the ideology, right? So I'm confused about the fact that this game seems to put forward that there is no real politics. There is just shadowy movements of large concentrated power. All of this stuff is happening. It's completely shaped her life. She's lived 7 lives because she's 7 different fucking people. And then her whole thing is about her being sterile. And she rips open her fucking shirt because we have to get tits on screen. And of course, her body is perfect. Again, this isn't even a MILF thing. She's an older woman, but she has the same body model as Eva. You know, whatever. And she has this scar, which looks like the most wild. It's a snake.
Yeah.
But if this is supposed to be a C-section scar, this shit is crazy mode.
That's crazy.
And all of this kind of distills in her pain about being a mother who did not get to be a mother, but now she is recontextualizing her role in Snake's life as being a mother. And all of this just fell flat on its face for me.
I get what you mean about her being 5 people, and that is good script doctoring, comma, a major theme in this is the larger-than-life super soldier. Think of Raiden talking about Snake from the first game, when Snake was just a dude who did some stuff. The boss is kind of like that to me. Like, anyway, we can talk about Outer Haven in the next game and in MGS5 what it means to idolize a soldier. And I just think that she is an idolized soldier.
And I do think, like, I feel like you could still pull that off. I mean, the idea of her being a commander of troops in World War II, women didn't do that. So, like, that's already a pretty groundbreaking thing. So, like,
to, like, kind of lead into my reading of this speech, I do want to push back a little bit on the idealized soldier comment, because I think that, I mean, not to push back on it, that is true. That is part of the thing that makes her character work, right? But to me, the thing about this speech and this confrontation in general, and again, this might just be me being poisoned by knowledge, right? But the rest of the series in some ways becomes about interpreting this conversation between the boss and Snake. And there's a lot of ways in which I think that we are supposed to find the ideology that she has at play here a little bit inscrutable, is so that later on we can get multiple interpretations of it that shape like future world events, right? This, I mean, because that's the thing about the way this timeline works, is this is a massive event in the timeline of the world of Metal Gear Solid, right? And obviously the Cold War ending is that for us too, but just with this in particular, you know, with the boss going down with names like Stalin and Hitler. That's like part of the context for me that makes this whole part work. I'm going to split the difference here. I do completely 100% agree that all of the fucking motherhood shit completely yanks me by the back of the head and just jerks me back forward and says, like, were you interested in this like weird geopolitical thing that you kind of were wanting to scrutinize? Well, too bad, because this is a female character that's delivering it, and so we have to make it about this too. There's no other way to illustrate her as a person, and that really fucking bothers me. I want to talk about the ideology that we're talking about, which is to say,
yes.
So one of my core notes on this speech is, you see, the Wise Men's Committee was supposed to be a good neoliberal cabal.
Yeah.
It fell apart because of circumstances and consequences, okay? That's what you have to keep in mind. That is kind of like the central thing. And like, from a storytelling standpoint, like, to me, I think that this is kind of this is the world as it's being illustrated, not that the game thinks that this is the world, but the game is telling you a story about a world in which this is true. And like, I understand that there's like cultural and real like machinic and systemic context to that. But I think what this slots in with Eva's speech about her at the end. And I think my interpretation of this as the third installment of a trilogy that is very much about nationalism and how people behave under nationalism is that we are not necessarily supposed to understand the boss's speech and Eva's speech as sad because she's a super soldier who gave up everything and is a war hero and da-da-da-da. We are supposed to understand that she and everyone else are the victims of a machine and a system that has predetermined the restrictions on which they can operate and interact with and understand the world. They are embroiled in an understanding of self that is deeply sad and deeply, deeply nihilistic when it comes down to like what it means to have a nation and what it means when you say that all borders imply the violence of their maintenance.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is tragic on a level of like this. They got fucked up on ideology is my take on this. You know what I mean? She says the philosophers eventually just became war, that's the thesis of Metal Gear Solid 4. Like, just to put it out there.
Yeah, that's 4.
Right, that's 4. And again, this conversation, who is here in this conversation? Big Boss is here. The boss is here. Ocelot is here tangentially.
Yeah, I was about to say, Ocelot is probably somewhere.
Ocelot is here. Eva is here. By extension, Paramedic is here. Major Zero is here. Sigint is here. Just, these are things to remember about, like, what people are going to say when this conversation comes back up in the rest of the franchise. And so I just think that there's more here. This is the first half of a sentence, and unfortunately, the latter half, I don't know that it's very satisfying, and I'm not saying there's anything in the future that's going to make up for how this can be a little bit sloppy. I'm just saying there's more to this. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited to talk about that because I think it is interesting, and I think there's a weird, thing that happens here. I mean, and to me, just to clear the air on this. I am obsessed with the boss. This makes me cry as well because I think
she's compelling.
She's compelling as fuck. I mean, this game is thinking about her at every turn. Her presence is so calculated and deliberate, and every single time she is doing something A, fucking sick, and B, something that really instills in you what her goals are going to be and how she's going to behave. I just think that's really good character work.
I do love that before she makes you fight her to the death, she does say, wow, I've never talked about myself this much before. And my note is, thanks for listening to women, Snake.
If Snake, as an eponymous character throughout the whole franchise, does anything, it's listen to dying women on the battlefield.
So good at it.
He just, he loves listening to women, and I respect it. But she's like, I feel content, please kill me. And then you do.
Have you ever heard of symbolism?
And the flowers turn red.
Hey, have you guys ever heard of symbolism?
What?
Does anybody know about symbolism? Can anybody? I think we need a little bit more symbolism. The fucking moon is here. The flowers turn red. The horse is back.
The horse is back.
Like,
this scar leaves her body and becomes a snake. I have to talk about this. Okay, I'm just very briefly. We've talked about whatever. The angle of the camera here, we're just staring at her tits, and it was partially so we could see the scar leave, but then it's just fixated on like her
under
chin, her neck, and her breasts. But more than just talking about boobs, in death, she is tragic and beautiful. The scar leaves her. Her body is no longer marred by it. She's almost like a marble statue in being a perfect object to mourn. And, like, it's frustrating, right? Because, like, so many people think misogyny is just, like, hating women, killing women, making them look stupid, making them wear skimpy clothing, have them act preposterous or be obsessed with men. But misogyny is fundamentally about not seeing women as human beings in the same way that men are allowed to be people who age or ugly or have weird relationships to their bodies and can be gross or unattractive, but still worth something, right? And, like, it's frustrating to really like her character as portrayed, but also see all of the trappings of misogyny still in play.
I am with you.
And especially in her dead body.
So what I will say is, yes, I don't sexualize the boss.
I know, it's not about sexualization. That's why I wanted to say specifically, you see her breasts, but you also see her neck and her chin, and she's so pale white. She looks like a marble statue. She is still not a person. She's still an object.
Well, if you vaunt okay, this is me asking about misogyny.
Yeah.
If you treat somebody as bigger than everything else and better than everything else, and you are a marble statue because we idolize you because she is that still misogyny?
It can be, but specifically it's when it centers on the body, right? Because, like, if her suit had been zipped up and she'd just been laying still in the red lilies, I think that would have been as poignant as what happens here. Unfortunately, what happens here is her suit is unzipped, the scar leaves her, and she's this perfect pale figure, specifically with her breasts out, with her femininity emphasized, right? And so that's kind of the distinction, because you can see a statue of a founding father and be like, oh, they're idolizing him. And you can see a statue of a woman who is posed exactly the same way and be like, they're idolizing her. But if the woman's breasts are out, like, there's a different dimension to that, right?
Well, and, like, yeah, to be clear, this is wrapped up in a certain understanding of what it means to put a body on screen, but I do, like, I am here I do think that reading is right.
It's interesting, but like I said, I feel like Kojima took on board some criticism and is trying to give female characters more to do, but there is some other stuff that goes unquestioned that we have to grapple with, even as we salute the boss. I'm saluting the boss.
And then we have gay sex in the back of a wig.
God, Ocelot is here!
No. Can I give one last thing on this one? Which is why this always hits me as much as it does.
Yeah.
So, you best the boss, right? She's laying there on the ground, and you pick up her weapon. And her weapon is called the Patriot, and this is a version of the XM16, which became the M16 rifle.
Hell yeah, Alice.
Just specially designed for the use by the boss, and uses a C-mag as well as a shortened stock and a shortened barrel, which has a magazine capacity of 140 rounds, and is the greatest gun in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. But also, they make you literally pull the trigger. It's not it goes from a cutscene and you don't really realize it because it's so fluid.
Oh.
But it leaves the cutscene and you have to press the button on your controller to shoot her.
Yep. Yes, you do.
Jesus. I didn't realize that.
And you can stay there for a while. So at the beginning, she calls to have bombs coming.
Yeah, you have 10 minutes.
You have 10 minutes. If you wait it out, they'll just kill you. You have to shoot her. You have to shoot the boss. And that is why I cry every time.
Can I point out the fact that later you see that the horse is still there mourning her, which implies that they blew up a hole?
I want to say something about that, which is that
I've seen Steven Spielberg's movie War Horse.
There's some sloppy sound editing in this part because honestly, to be perfectly honest, there's an accidental implication that the horse is like eating her because it's like licking its lips and making a bunch of sloppy noises as it passes over.
Honestly, I think it shouldn't have ended on her beautiful sculpted neck. It should have ended on her horse eating her, which is what she would have wanted.
That's symbolism.
We're talking about when she shoots the Patriot, the bullets tumble because she's using non-standard sized rounds in it because she doesn't want to just kill him. She literally gimps herself in the fight with it.
I wondered what the fuck that was. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Snake and Ocelot have gay sex with revolvers in the back of the wig. There's 8 straight minutes of this cutscene where Ocelot is like inches away from leaning into a kiss. Inches away from leaning into a kiss.
Yes.
Like, I wanted it to happen. I love this. This is like, I loved Ocelot in all this.
He demands Snake's real name.
Snake gives him a fake name.
I know, Ocelot moment.
Classic.
This was the part where I was writing out that big thought about misogyny, and then I just stopped in the middle of a sentence to write, wait, I forgot what I was saying. Did Ocelot just touch Snake's lips before he jumped out of the...
It's so fun. Because like A, they're having gay sex. B, it's a fun little gun trick. C, it makes you do a lot of the stuff in it. Like it'll make you pick up choose which gun to pick up. And also this is where we learn implicitly that A, he's the son of the boss, and B, he was Adam the whole time.
Big Boss and Ocelot, the homosexual tension. I just love that he does this whole thing and it's a blank because he never actually wants to kill him. It's just about the dance.
Just you construct intricate rituals that allow you to touch the skin of other men.
That is literally my note.
I want to say the theory crafting about Otacon's call at the end of this is wild because, like...
You mean Ocelot? You keep saying Otacon.
Guys, I've had a long day. I'm sorry.
You're totally fine. I just love the idea that Otacon at the end of this is like, hey, I'm also in this franchise.
But a continuous, we love when Metal Gear Solid has a fade to black, you can only hear one side of a phone conversation, and this is the banger one.
It's very clearly Ocelot just doing the triple-double reach-around betrayal. Well, we did skip past, I understand the impulse. We did skip past a lot of the heterosexuality, but also a really good speech from Eva.
Oh, yeah.
So Ocelot jumps out of the plane after he gets his courtship dance off. The romantic and sexual tension, there's been a dial on our desk the whole time, and Snake has been turned to 0, and now they're like, we should start creeping this up. So they have almost kisses between Snake and Eva, and the Major interrupts, which was very funny. Then, later it cuts to them in front of a fireplace having wine. The radio goes off again and he throws it in the fireplace and they fuck. And I write RIP to my running joke about him being an ace king. They're fucking on the broken wine glasses tonight because where they put them looks like where they roll. And then we get a whole bunch of weird, more exposition from Eva, including the sentence, scholars tell us that the first spy was the snake in the Garden of Eden. That is...
So true, bestie.
Hey, can I get a citation, Eva, last name, real quick? Eva Metal Gear? Can I get a citation, please?
And she implies that the snake leaves with the fruit of forbidden knowledge, like that was the goal, and I'm like, that doesn't...
This speech starts really cringe to me because she's like, and you see, it's reversed, because I fooled the snake, and it's like, yeah, we fucking get the take on the story, you dumbass.
It's so, we get it. The whole time I was like, we get it.
She has a bunch of cool shit to say. You know, she is an agent for China. She is a triple, double, quadruple bullshit. She's cool. This is cool. I liked this a lot. I will always like this.
Yeah, I love this.
See, Ocelot is known for the work that she has been doing. Once again, misogyny never sleeps.
Misogyny in the canon.
There was a really cool moment they did in the game where you're receiving all this exposition as a recorded tape and Snake is listening to it. And they do a really cool thing with the video game modeling, which is they put Snake listening to the tape in the same scene as her deciding not to shoot him.
It's a great comp. It's really, really good. Yeah. Eva takes away on a Triumph motorcycle. This is an important tool we will use later.
Yes, she does. I'm gay for that scene.
She's gonna go back to China and hand the legacy over, and we're never gonna talk to her about her again, and she lives happily ever after.
For half of the legacy.
For half of the legacy.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, actually, we learned that...
There's 5 twists. There's 5 twists that happen here.
Who actually ends up with the legacy, guys? Does everybody know?
Ocelot somehow, our specialist little guy.
Our special little boy, our little guy, came out on top in every way, except for when it comes to Snake.
The ideology here is interesting because, Brian, you brought up nationalism, which is funny because, like, nationalism is referenced a bunch of times, but I never got a strong sense of anyone having a particularly strong, wow, I really relate to America, other than Gronin, who literally is like, I love my country, I love living here, I don't want to go anywhere else. You know, like, there's a little bit of nationalism, but at the end, they dial it all the way up because Snake is given the fucking Medal of Freedom or whatever.
I just think that you missed a lot of dialogue in the codec calls.
I must have because
people talk a lot about like people ask Snake a lot like, what does this mission mean to you? What does it mean for you to do the right thing here? How much do you love your country? Those 3 questions are always looped up together.
Yeah, I'm definitely missing that. But yeah, and in the end, we get like really upfront ideology because Snake is awarded the Medal of Freedom or whatever and the title.
Scene.
This is the scene that makes me cry, like open mouth cry every time.
After you've survived the sentence, you are above even the boss. I hereby award you the title of Big Boss.
Yes, because what happens here, he hesitantly shakes his hand, and then he turns around, snuffs everyone else, and fucking leaves. He's done with this shit.
It is the saddest fucking scene in the world.
Only after, because this to me is the poignant, like, there is an ideology here scene. He salutes, the president insists on a handshake. He hesitantly lowers his hand and does the handshake, and the president immediately maneuvers them to be photographed. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that is the moment he connects all the wires that Boss was talking about.
100%.
And then that's when he
to be clear, what we know, what Nico like might know, but hasn't been drilled in just because the first 2 Metal Gear games talk about it more. Big Boss will go on to become an anti-United States terrorist. So, like, I mean, who among us?
Who among us?
Well, you also know it's part of the number 1 backstory.
Yeah, you know that, yeah.
But this scene is, number 1, do kind of cry in it because it is like the soldier coming back from war and everybody's like, good job on killing your mentor and mother figure because we got the money out of it probably.
Don't worry that she's going to be written down in history along with Stalin and Hitler.
You can literally see where he finally understands everything his mom told him.
You can see it. They actually did a really good job.
And that he needs to do what she did.
It's really, really well done. And then,
she didn't figure it out until it was too late. So she could
So
this was
the part of my reading from her speech from earlier is this is why they included what on its face is honestly kind of a dumbass thing, which is the stupid space mission that she was on. But what that meant, what that was supposed to do in like the literalization of the narrative was make you understand that another reason she is a tragic character in this, like I mentioned earlier, like kind of my quote unquote theory of being embroiled in an understanding of selfhood, which is that she became existentially aware of that very early in her development as a soldier and was powerless to do anything about imagining herself outside of that system, which is like the saddest part of her character to me. And that's what this scene does for illustrating it, at least in my reading. And then, of course, we get the still that everyone's seen, which is him saluting tearfully. It fucking ruins me.
When he just leaves the loose gun at the graveyard, I do like that.
This is America. So yeah, that's the video game.
Yep.
What a fucking banger of a game.
Listen, I know that this had I think my understanding coming away from this conversation with you, Nico, is that I think we agree on all the things that are bad. I think that all the things that are good hit me a lot harder than they hit you, and that is like completely acceptable.
Well, and after I'm being completely sincere talking to you two about your experience with the game, about stuff that I missed, about, different stuff. It recontextualizes a lot of this. And it's also interesting to like hear the different perspectives, especially because they inform how people would have perceived this at the time, which you talk about you being poisoned by knowledge because you're poisoned by knowledge of the franchise. Well, obviously, I'm poisoned by knowledge of the future. In 2004...
And of fuel used for rockets. You're also poisoned by that.
And of course, the extremely stable fuel used in these rockets. Thank you, Alice. But, no, I'm poisoned by 20 years of perspective, where we have seen ideology warp in such a way that the idea for saying, I saw a world without capitalism or communism is so funny, because I think in 2004, we did feel like, well, we've left behind big ideology. Now we can all just be one people.
And I don't know about how this relates to Kojima's experience and his intention with writing this stuff, but I will say to piggyback off your comment about how the Cold War had ended and a lot of the bad stuff was happening elsewhere. My education on the Cold War in New Mexico, which by the way is the 49th state ranked in education, just to make that clear.
Congrats.
It was tinged with the Cold War wasn't a bad war because none of the things happened on U.S. soil with U.S. soldiers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the war on terror?
Right.
Yeah, a lot of the discussion of modern warfare, it doesn't happen here, right? It doesn't happen on our soil. And so it's remote, and so we can ignore it. And I think, Alice, you talked about this before with Pat Labor, very much so the same in Japan.
I was really going to pull up, and I didn't get into it, but Boss really reminds me of Nadeshiko from Pat Labor too.
Yeah.
She is very misunderstood and put on this pedestal and both downtrodden for being a woman and not being in her role correctly, but also being relied on. I do want to say I don't think this game, my interpretation of Kojima and his writing, especially in these games, is that he is not entirely pro-nationalist or pro-globalism.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
He is very pro soldiers have to fix this, which is fucked up in its own way.
Yeah, again, it's a ideology that seems invisible, but it is clearly there,
I don't know if I agree with that last part. I mean, because this just goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is just that I think that these games are almost, my understanding, my reading is that they are anti-nationalist. They are anti the glorification of putting the solution in the hands of a soldier. Because what happens, the 50 years of this game franchise happens, and it's nothing but suffering.
I get that. And then I also think there's the issue of how it's interpreted, right? Because I think, again, there are people who listen to Rage Against the Machine who are fascists. They just like that it's rock and it's yelling. Totally. Any media that has an agenda, someone will decontextualize it.
100%.
I guess we can get into it more in 5, but I do feel like a lot of, it's the soldiers are always pawns in these games is kind of a running narrative, I think. And it's the people who are calling the shots that are the problem, which can range from a colonel who controls you to a globalist society.
Well, I think that's quite enough of War is Bad. I think it's time for Cool Robot. Alice, there's something we need to do.
I think we need to rate these goddamn mechs, is what we need to do.
Yes.
We've been talking about mechs so much during this mech podcast.
Shagahan died off screen while we were talking about nationalism.
Sorry. If you don't think nationalism is in the mech space, then I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, I've seen Gundam. So there's one mech in this that I am willing to consider, which is the Shagohan.
Sure.
You're not going to consider the motorcycle?
The motorcycle is spiritually... Well, that kind of leads me into what I'm going to say about the Shagohot. So, number one, love the paint schemes, both versions. I love the little weird drill arms. I love the shot of it sitting and shooting at the beginning really gets me into it.
It's a really cool shot.
But where I struggle with this is when you look at the gun tank, my man's got little arms. He's got a little head. He's a mech. The Shagohod is a land-based nuclear submarine. And that's cool. And I love his transformations. But if it weren't for Volgan ripping out the cords and driving it like that, I would not really consider this a mech. And I honestly struggle. I know it is a mech conceptually.
We're going to have to come to blows.
But it's so much closer to a tank with modular arms that it is hard for me to be like, oh, this is a mech. But with Volgan controlling it like that and the multi-stages, I do think it is a mech. However, its functionality and what it can do, when you are fighting it, it doesn't have other weapons platforms to it. It is a Scud missile delivery system in another form. It's cool as fuck, and I love that it has to have a long takeoff. I love those whole mechanics. I love how it looks, how it moves, how it sounds. We didn't really talk too much about that, but the sounds it makes
it does your classic screaming.
So good. It's classic
Oh,
screaming.
yeah, I love the
that we've
screaming.
come to know in this series. And
to love.
So honestly, and to love. But out of the Metal Gear franchise, and I have to think of the other mechs we've looked at, and what I love in a mech. I love a mass-produced little standy man emoji. And I put this closer to an MLRS missile launching system that has funny legs. I'm gonna have to give this one a 3. Sorry.
I think that's firm but fair.
I'll throw it to Nico.
Okay, well, you need to listen to women. If this game taught me anything, it's listen to women. And I was listening when Alice spoke, and I agree on pretty much all of those points. I did have a note at one point that was just like, am I having another Metallic Rouge situation? You will know by now. We recorded that earlier, but you will know by now. Am I having another situation where, to me, this doesn't quite hit as a mech? And I feel like I arrived at the same place as Alice. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll consider it for this. But we would have been having a different conversation if during phase 2 it had hopped up on those little steppies. Like, we would have been having a different conversation if it did some leg stunts. But as it stands, it has that extremely cool shot that you see during the test fire. You actually kind of see the terrain kind of capability that they have tentatively suggested for it, which is, gripping a hill and then tanking up it and gripping and tanking. It basically army crawls, right? Because it doesn't have back legs. I think that's interesting, but I didn't like the camo, and so that hurt it a little bit. And it's a tank, At the end of the day, it's a tank with some bits on it, and again, liquid rocket fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm not gonna go quite as low as a 3, because I don't have all of the context that Alice has, but I will give this a 4. It's just, unfortunately, as much as I stan her for being a huge chunky bitch who just does the damn thing, this is mostly a tank.
Yeah.
Brian, bring us home.
It's okay to be wrong. No, I mean, okay.
Brian said, I will not be listening to women. I took lessons from
That is
Ocelot.
the thesis of the podcast. It's okay to be wrong.
Okay, you're wrong. No, I disagree with the specific thing you're saying, which is that it's a tank with some bits on it. But to me, a mech can be a tank with some bits on it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
To me, a lot of what makes a mech other than, and I've talked about this shitloads on the show at this point. To me, part of what makes a mech what it is the context in which it exists and the ways in which its narrative interacts with it. And to me, when we talk about Mechs as a space, the mission of, like, again, the same as Metal Gear Rex, having to crawl all over it, go all over it, plant C4, try to sabotage it doesn't work. It's this crazy unstoppable force. Vulcan has a bunch of really cool scenes piloting it. It's a really fun boss. That being said, I'm willing to defend its ontological existence as a mech. I am not really in a position to defend how cool it is, because I do think it's a goofy little bug.
Little goofy little guy.
And so for me, okay, I have to say something. I'm going to do something unprecedented on the pod. I have to recontextualize the score of a different game. Because...
Oh, shit. Historical revisionism.
Oh, shit.
Historical revisionism. I gave fucking Metal Gear Solid 2 way too low of a score for my personal palate, because I allowed peer pressure that wasn't there to generate and fog my life.
You allowed the other philosophers.
I allowed the other philosophers to cloud my vision, and I devolved into nothing but a being of war.
Is this our first revision?
This is our first, I think.
I'm giving Metal Gear Solid 2 a 7, and I'm giving this game a 6.
Wow. Alice, I'm glad we went low. We gotta bring this shit down.
Yeah, it's garbage fire. It's okay to be wrong, Brian.
There wasn't even a cyborg ninja.
Yeah, that's true.
No.
That's true.
But again, this isn't a rating of the game, and it's just the Shaggy.
Oh, also, sorry.
I get what you mean, Brian.
I am figuring also the hover segues into my score.
That's so real.
Because to be honest, they are so stupid. I love them so much. They're good. They make a fucking sci-fi alien whining sound. They're like woo 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 woo.
Thank you. I'll clip that.
You're welcome. Okay, we're gonna take a break and we're gonna play a game.
Otacon, light of my life. What do you need?
Snake, Psycho Mantis is breaking into OSG Studios.
What? OSG Studios?
He can't be allowed to reach OSG's listenership. He has mind control powers.
There you are, Snake's charmingly pathetic male wife. I shall now take control of you. Otacon, you have to resist. It's no use, Snake. He's playing his mind control music. Now, OSG listener, I will speak directly into your mind with my psychic powers. Place your cellular phone on the ground and I will manipulate it. So, you listen to friends at the table. Oh no, he's using his mind powers to navigate to Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts? I will now use your phone to leave a 5-star review on the OSG landing page. Oh no, that's disingenuous but beneficial. I will also use your touch keyboard to write a review. That way your podcast will be exposed to more people, and they will have a chance to correct your verbal foibles on the internet. No! Tell your friends and family to listen to OSG and give them 5 stars, or you may hear that music on the breeze.
Snake, are you okay? Snake? Snake!
I can't believe I let you make me think that more Metal Gear Ray was a bad thing. I was like thinking about that the next day, like, man.
I'm just so glad you're just standing in your truth.
Yeah. We're playing a game. I don't have a good name for this game. Right now, my working title is Movie Magic with Medic of a Pair Variety.
What the fuck?
Okay. I got there.
You can call this game an ode to the only woman who isn't blonde.
Or naked at any point.
Guys, I realized I didn't even talk about Fulton extractions and Halo jumps.
Yeah, you didn't even talk about Fulton extractions. From what I remember, you can do that in Metal Gear Solid 5 episode.
Correct. I just want to talk about how he just throws shit in he reads in Popular Science. That's it.
The original plan to rescue Sokolov during the Virtuous mission was to use a Fulton recovery device.
After doing a Halo jump was to do a Fulton.
The world's first Halo jump. Too bad it won't be in the history books, old chap. I'm Major Zero. Go steal me a Russian scientist.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Thank you. I've been working on my Major Zero. Okay.
Here's how this game is going to work. Let me give you a little background because we didn't talk about this in the meat. The save mechanic is with Paramedic, and like all other of the save mechanics, she's got a little thing where she is going to tell you something every time you save. This time, every time Snake saves the game, she asks him if he's seen an old 60s campy sci-fi or wartime movie. And then he says yes or no, or actually he always says no because it's Snake. He's never heard of anything. And so she'll explain the plot and how she has a point about the plot and how it relates to whatever is happening right now, right? She talks about a lot of landmark movies that I think we all know Kojima watched and loves because he loves Western media, especially old wartime Western media. And so what I thought would be fun for this game is so on the outline you'll find a list of films that Paramedic references. It's not all of them because there's actually a fuckload. It's really thorough.
So many.
And so I've given you some. I'm going to list an old 60s movie production fact from one of the film's Paramedic references in Metal Gear Solid 3. 4 points, the host will tell me which movie it is from. Take care. I am a triple agent for the People's Republic of China, which you might guess from my Chinese counterfeit Mauser, which I talk about at the very beginning of the game.
Oh, fuck!
Yeah.
And one or more of these may be entirely fabricated.
Oh.
Spy shit.
Lovely Lule Low.
You wouldn't lie to us, would you, Brian?
This is the internet. I would never lie. Okay. I'm going to start with Alice because her name starts with A.
Hi.
Damn.
Miniature constructs like the Kremlin were constructed out of wafers and then hung upside down where compressed air was shot upwards at them to simulate the wartime destruction of cities in a real-time nuclear apocalypse.
I'm going to be real. I've seen one of these.
You're not supposed to have seen
I
any
haven't
of
seen
them.
any of them,
Yeah,
so.
I was like...
Wait. No, that's wrong. I've seen A Fistful of Dollars.
I'm going to say The Day the Earth Stood Still.
That is incorrect. Nico, would you like to take a gander?
Might it be The Last War?
It might be The Last War. This was directed by Shuei Matsubayashi in 1961. I have to give credit. Okay, Nico, this is your turn. This film was shot on the same stage as The Wizard of Oz, and most of the costuming would be reused 2 years later in a film called The Queen of Outer Space.
I'm gonna say The Curse of the Werewolf?
No. Alice, would you like to take a gander, I guess?
I'm going to say Forbidden Planet.
That is correct.
Yes!
All right, Alice, it is your turn. This film ran into legal trouble with the Japanese production company Toho for being what is essentially an unlicensed remake of the Kurosawa film Yojimbo.
What? I'm gonna go with the Incredible Shrinking Man.
That is incorrect. Nico, would you like to take a guess?
I think this is a fistful of dollars.
That is a fistful of dollars. You're correct.
Yes!
That's a ripoff? Oh my god.
Well, they was a spaghetti western, right? And so, like, yeah, I don't think the Italians were working hard on the scripts.
Oh, by the way, The Forbidden Planet was directed by Fred Wilcox in 1956, and A Fistful of Dollars was directed by Sergio Leone, famed Italian guy who made westerns, and that's why they called them spaghetti westerns.
Famed Italian man.
Famed.
And the article I read was like, they were literally like, hey, print fucking Yojimbo. Like, they were literally like, make that movie, but do it in a western.
Well, no, that was happening a lot, because, like, the Magnificent Seven was literally Seven Samurai.
Exactly.
Cowboys were a sort of warrior class in Meiji-era Texas.
That's so cursed. Okay, whose turn is it? Nico? Production elements led to the death of 24 tarantulas during the filming of this movie.
No! The Incredible Shrinking Man?
That's correct.
I was trying to think of who tarantulas would be a threat to. Short Kings.
Incredible Shrinking Man, directed by Jack Arnold in 1957. They were trying to do like a, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, this tiny thing is big to the guy scene. They ended up having to use a rat because the spiders weren't working. Or sorry, a cat.
They just killed him?
I guess the heat lamps were too hot or something. I don't fucking know. The 50s were crazy. Our technology was just... We were just using... I love Fallout.
I did see a great paragraph that was like, listen, when I watch old movies, the sexism, the racism, I kind of take that. What gets me is the animal handling. Every time I see someone interact with a chimp, I'm so terrified.
Yeah. Okay. Alice.
Hi.
There is a debate as to who actually did most of the directing in this film, which got as heated as the following quote. Did direct it? That's one of the most insane, inane, and ridiculous questions I've ever heard, and people keep fucking asking me.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Incorrect.
Oh.
Nico.
I think this is a fake quote because I feel like that's about Overdrive.
Nope, unfortunately, this is real. This is The Thing.
Oh.
The official...
Oh.
Really?
The official directing credit goes to Christian Nyby, but his co-director was a man named Howard Hawks, and a lot of the production staff claimed that Hawks was actually the one who did most of the work.
Huh. His name was Power Hawks?
Howard Hawks.
Oh. I was like, he's from Metal Gear?
Powered Hawk is a villain in one of the Metal Gear spinoffs.
All right. Whose turn is it, Nico? Somebody keeps stealing.
Me.
So
it's Alice.
During a frustrating scene where the lead actor's heavy latex makeup kept falling off, he resorted to gluing the forehead piece on, which burned and melted in the studio lights and gave him a permanent scar across his hairline.
Gotta be the Curse of the Werewolf.
You would be correct, but I made this the fuck up.
No!
Oh!
I've been triple crossed!
Dun, dun, dun,
dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun. Fish and mails.
I know, that's all I could think. I've become Metal Gear build. You people did this to me.
Anyway, final round. This is Nico, I believe?
Correct.
Okay. Wary of a pessimistic ending, Walter Wanger Productions forced the crew to insert a prologue and epilogue that changed the entire frame of the story and made the film seem like it ended with a victory by the United States military against a foreign threat.
The Day the Earth Stood Still? Wait, that's an alien invasion one.
No, unfortunately, no. Oh. Alice, would you like to take a guess?
I don't need to take a guess because I've seen this film. That's Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Sure is.
Oh, shit!
Oh, I have one more. Sorry. Forgot about this. One more round. Not a bonus round.
Wait,
this is a
wait,
normal
do you
round.
want to call it?
Well, it could be a bonus round because I want to call it one. Sure, what the fuck ever. Right, yeah. For double.
No, it's a normal round.
For this normal round, it's just going to be whoever can answer first, because if you've been paying attention, there's only one answer left on the sheet. But
The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah, there you go. A central character in this film was played by a theater usher who happened to be tall enough and had no experience wearing a suffocating leather suit and could only film for 20 minutes at a time. The 60s were crazy.
Have you ever seen the suit that man had to wear the Day the Earth Stood Still?
It's brutal. We have to announce who the winner was. Do you have any guesses?
Oh, was it Nico?
This is a tie because Alice got the bonus round.
Let's go!
Alice, we finally ended war.
Wait, no.
Now you two have to fight to the death in a field of white flowers. Are you joking?
Oh, shit.
There can be only one victor and one loser.
No victory, no defeat.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah, no victory, no defeat.
Okay, Alice, rock, paper, scissors. We're on camera.
Paper, scissors, shoot. We tied again. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Yeah!
I got
Alice won. She killed me. Make sure to unzip my bodysuit so that you can see my tummy. It's important.
I'm shooting you with the most convoluted weapon you've ever seen me carry.
We have a codec call. This is from Iris J. This is a they do comics. Illustrious Iris J at all the comics or at all the social medias. They're good. Shout outs to them.
Nice.
Dear OSG podcast, I'm a single working mother who's been through a lot, and while I love my son dearly, I worry he may have developed a codependent relationship with me. He's a fully grown adult, but he still follows me around constantly, squabbles with his poor little brother, and begs me for advice on topics I've already told him. I know leaning on tough love tactics is wrong for parents to do, but I'm seriously worried that if I don't do something, he might go and do something stupid like start a nuclear-armed international mercenary group committed to fostering an endless state of global conflict. How do I gently, lovingly tell my son to unclench from my goddamn tit and learn some geopolitical theory? Sincerely, griping and Groznygrad. I adore the podcast, by the way. Keep up the amazing work. Heart emoji. Thank you very much.
Fucking heart emoji for this codec call. And now I will step back into kayfabe.
I gotta call paramedic for some advice on this one real quick. One sec. Thank you so much for writing in. So I think, while you might think that these children are terrible infants, some les enfants terribles, what you need to realize is that you've given them the weapons, you've given them the training, and now all that remains for them is the mission. I think you need to send them on some clandestine operations to really get it out of their system. Send them to some, interim war zones, drop them from a Halo drop, just,
romantic Italian restaurants.
You've given them all they need. Yeah, I mean,
Halo dropped them into an Italian
What I will say is something that's very good for people going through, struggles with their siblings and things like that is to have outlets. So you're going to need to assemble a group of 3 to 5 specialists in their field and give them code names and then give your kid a phone. But don't tell them what those people's numbers are. They have to earn them through, chores, right? Show them some reasoning to get it. And then they can call on those friends who can give them advice, such as how to get leeches off their bodies and also how to beat up and kidnap a lady who wears a bikini and pantyhose, and she will join your fight as you become some sort of military without borders. I forgot where we were going with this, but I think you should just let it play out. Anyway, what about you, Nico?
One of your kids is blonde, and he only has 3 guns. 4th gun.
That's a compelling fucking argument.
Just to make that clear, you're saying we should arm children?
Yeah.
Okay. Continue, Brian.
This is difficult, right? Because, one of the controversial things comedian news correspondent Trevor Noah has said is that children understand violence. And, man, I don't know. I think I was going to say something different, but I really think I agree with 4th gun theory.
These are the 3 theories as presented in this podcast. There is Alice's Watsonian explanation. There's the Doyleist explanation. There's the Nicoist explanation. Have you tried assigning them queer micro-identities? And then there is 4th gun theory.
4th gun theory. See, I really think if you added a 4th gun, they would, all 4 of them would add up to something greater than themselves and constitutionally be a mech.
Yeah, I think if Ocelot gets a 4th gun, he's a
mech.
Why
are we even reinventing the wheel? Give your kids mechs. Let them fight it out. Come on.
Yeah, oh my god, what are we doing here? Anyway, Mechs.
Mechs. Mechs is the answer.
Mechs is the answer. Mechs and 4th gun.
And actually, you know what? Somebody else earlier turned a dial that said geopolitical conflict all the way up. I think the best thing...
It snapped off.
I think what this might need... I think you might need to turn that down a little bit because you clearly can't really handle it, right? So maybe you should just kind of lower that one.
I love to tell a working mother that she's doing too much and clearly she's unfit.
Right.
Wow, Brian, would you listen to women?
This is the official sense of the Oshi pod is that Brian doesn't listen to women.
We do listen to Iris J. Thank you so much for writing in. We don't deserve you. I'm so sorry.
That's true. Final thoughts, y'all?
I had one final thought, but it's actually a bit of a little exercise I'd like to do with my my dear friend Nico.
Okay.
See, Nico, you might remember earlier we did a reading in one of these episodes of a codec transmission.
Oh, no.
And something that I think you missed in a lot of this is some of the great codec transmissions, but specifically, this game contains my favorite codec transmission in all of Metal Gear, and I would like you to read it with me. Is that okay, Nico?
Yes, it's okay. Please post the script.
You will be reading the part of Sigint. I will be reading for Naked Snake. Let us begin.
Snake, what are you doing?
I'm in a box.
A cardboard box. Why are you...
I don't know. I was just looking at it, and suddenly I got this irresistible urge to get inside. No. Not just an urge, more than that. It was my destiny to be here. The box.
Destiny?
Yeah. And then when I put it on, I suddenly got this feeling of inner peace. I can't put it into words. I feel safe. Like this is where I was meant to be. Like I'd found the key to true happiness. Does any of that make sense?
Not even a little.
You should come inside the box. Then you'll know what I mean.
Man, I don't want to know what you mean.
And that is my favorite codec transmission in all of Metal Gear. Get in the box with me. You'll understand.
I missed so much. Thank you so much, Alice, for educating me. I don't have a final thought. I don't even want to know what you mean.
My final thought is I think if you haven't, you all should go play this game for yourselves. It survives pretty well without the context of the other ones on its own. And I think...
It's on Steam.
To be clear to everyone, and also my dear beloved co-host, I am not shaming Nico for watching a Let's Play, but I do think that we have learned today that there is an essential part of playing this game, which is to play it yourself, because the way that you interact with certain things is going to elicit different experiences because of how much was put into the way characters talk to each other in this game. So
you should come inside the box, Nico.
Sorry, that was like an anime sound. Anyway.
Thanks for listening. Pilots, remember you can reach out for advice from the team at our email, questions@osgpod.com. And non-pilots can send general questions or feedback to the same address. Remember, we are also taking submissions for an eventual run around and talk about random Mechs episode.
Lightning round, mech rating.
You can also catch up with us on social media. Links are in the description for updates and more. Make sure to check back in 2 weeks when we will be discussing Mazinger. Mazinger, right?
Yeah, Mazinger Z.
Mazinger Z. Until then, I still give my life, not for honor, but for you.
Goodbye, I love you.
I trained you. I loved you. Goodbye.
Okay, we did it, y'all. We made it through.
4 hour record.
We made it through. Hey, that's still less than we recorded on Price of Smiles altogether.